to say that you are interested or not interested in a player you may or may not be interested actually in. But according to the scuttlebutt, they're at least open to trading down from that pick. And you rarely don't at least make it clear you're interested in listening to offers, right? Only a GM who is extremely confident or extremely bad doesn't at least make it clear they're interested in hearing offers. So I think that the situation the Titans find themselves in, they're at least going to listen to offers for the number one pick. They probably won't take those offers unless their minds are absolutely blown by the offer they receive. And they don't go down very far, maybe 1 or 2 spots at the most. But if they stick and stay where they are, it probably is Ward. And then Abdul Carter is a player that's in play for any of the top 3 or 4 selections, because no matter who you are, you can use an elite level pass rusher. There's no such thing as a team that says, oh, we have too many great pass rushers, right? I've never heard anybody ever say that. We have too many. Oh, what do I do with all the great pass rushers? So if you can generate pass rush, and we just saw this, right? We all just watched the Super Bowl just a few weeks ago. If you can generate pass rush by simply sending 4, they had a 0% blitz percentage, right? You saw the Eagles do all that blitzing not a single time. They rushed 3 or 4 100% of the time. So never more than 4. And they managed to do all that. I think 38-point-something% pressure rate with 0% blitzing. And that's what you want. You want to be able to generate consistent pressure without blitzing. So Abdul Carter is going to go off the board. 1, 2, 3, 4 at the latest, though I don't even think he makes it to 4.
Absolutely. Do we have another pick in, Jim? I didn't know.
So Travis Hunter came into the Giants. And then
the advantage of being the Giants is you can use anything. There's not a pick you could make amongst the top players that the Giants couldn't use. The good news about being terrible is that you can use everything. The Giants could use offensive line. The Giants can use defensive line. The Giants can use corners. The Giants can use wide receivers. The Giants can use quarterbacks. There's not a position you could throw out there where I'd say, oh, no, the Giants are set. There's not a single position where the Giants are set. So the good news about Travis Hunter is he is an elite level competitor. He works his butt off. First of all, I watched this kid play 111 snaps in a game. While that is not a record, it's close. You won't find many people who play more than 111 snaps in a game. Actually, it might be a record. I should probably go and check. But it's not something you're going to see every day. Outside of high school football, you're going to have trouble finding, at least in the modern era. And even in the old days when guys played both ways, the pace of the game was slower. So it might be a record, actually. But whether it is or not, beyond the talent portion, think of what kind of commitment to things like preparation and conditioning you have to play as many snaps as this young man's played. Now, I don't think that's going to happen in the next level. I think he's going to be essentially a corner who is in some packages at wide receiver, and that's what I would do with him as well. I think that in certain games, in certain situations, you might even throw him back there to return punts and kickoffs, sort of like they used to do with Dion when they desperately needed a big play. But he's a guy who has literally Hall of Fame level potential as a corner and maybe Pro Bowl level upside as a receiver. He's a guy that doesn't really understand, not since they understand. He hasn't implemented the finer points of route running yet, right? Which is to be expected. One is that the offense itself doesn't demand it. And 2, he's Travis Hunter. He can simply out-athlete every person who's ever lined up across him to this point in his life. When he was 8, when he was 9, when he was 12, when he was 14, when he was 19, when he was 20, 21, whatever age he was, whoever lined up across from him was going to be an inferior athlete, no matter who that person was, unless they literally got his DNA and cloned him. And then it would still be even.
So we got 2 more picks on the board. Woo! We got Ted McMillan, it looks like, to the Patriots. I like that
a little
bit.
Earlier than I was expecting him to come off the board, but okay, exciting, interesting.
I got him 5th on my board, so it matches up where I have him. Okay. Ted McMillan, long. People want to say Mike Evans as a comparison. Also, Drake London, maybe closer to Drake London. I'm a Ted fan, but he needs a bulk up, I think, still a little bit. good overall player. There's a lot I like with Tet McMillan. So what are your thoughts on him for the Patriots? I think it's good to get Drake May a weapon there.
Yeah, he's a terrific player. I just wonder, and first of all, he might not even do all the things. We'll see what he does at the combine. But I think the combine's not his friend. And not that he's going to plummet based on what he does, but
are you thinking more the 40 and the 3 cone and things like that? Because I think he'll jump well.
I think he'll jump well. I think he'll run, 4, 5, 6, which is not terrible for a guy his size.
Right.
But he's essentially what I call possession plus, right? A guy who is a possession receiver with a little extra in the tank. But he's not a true deep threat at the next level. Right. So he can be there's lots of guys who in the possession plus role have had great careers. So I'm not saying that this is a denigration of what I think he's going to be, but I like him. And
let's move it along. We don't want to get too far.
Let's do it. Let's keep going.
So let's go. Pick 5 was the Jaguars, Mason Graham. That one, it seems like everyone is going with, and that was the pick again here. Yep. I can't fault it. I mean, I think there's a little bit of prospect fatigue going on with him because he's been so high on everyone's boards
forever
for 2 years.
Right.
But I think it's a good pick. I think
fatigue or not, he's a large, freakish individual who's going to
do it all.
Problems.
Can do it all on the defensive line.
And then Shedeur. Now the Ravens would love for Shedeur to actually be there with a pick. Whether that will happen or not is a whole other question. But this would be the answer to the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of at least the vast majority of Raiders fans. They have muddled together with mucilage and bandages and spit and elbow grease and grit and toenails and floor wax at the position. It'll be exciting for them to have something that resembles an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, and I don't know. Shedeur, I got him like mid-20s, but he's going to go top 10. It's the quarterback tax that all these teams pay. They're always going to overdraft quarterbacks or overdraft. You can't overdraft somebody that's going to change your franchise is the thing. So if it works out, then it's a good pick, right?
Right. No one will criticize it if it works out. But in terms of where these prospects are rated, one's about number 14 on my board. The other's about number 26 on my board. But as you just said, they'll go earlier. Yeah.
And then we got a big shock on the next pick with the Jets. Kenneth Grant, and he's a combine guy. He's going to test well, 6'3", 340. Yep. I'm a big Kenneth Grant fan as a Bengals fan for 17, and a lot of the Bengals fan base don't love it because the pass rush isn't there. His pass rush win rate, even in true pass sets, is like under 15. Yep. So I get it. But at the same point in time, you got a stud as a run defender, and his absolute ceiling, and I hate to say it, but I've said it, so I'll say it again, is Dexter Lawrence because it's the size and the athleticism. And that's what you hope a good D-line coach could develop the pass rush, and he could become that. So I can understand the thought of it, but that's a hell of a swing. But they got some good guys to pair him with.
I think the more likely career is more Corey Peters-esque, which is still a good player. Yeah. But yes, you just said if everything goes right, you're getting Dexter Lawrence.
And most of the time, everything does not go right. Dexter Lawrence is a one-of-one player. Right. A one-of-one player. So, but that's the biggest shock so far of this draft, I got to say. Kenneth Grant going that high. But I think he's going to be talked about. Right now, he's talked about mid-20s.
Yep.
And I think he's going to be talked about top 15 after the combine.
I agree. I think the marketplace will reset for him somewhere in that 12 to 16 or so range. It's a really good D tackle class. I mean, I don't have to belabor the point. Everyone knows that.
And they're starting to fly off the board. So we got another one. But before that, we got a cornerback pick with the Panthers. And that was Will Johnson, I believe, from Michigan. Yep. I hope he's able to test. He was hurt a lot of this season, but he's an elite player. And some of the numbers he's supposed to test at, like his 3-cone drill, would have been, I seen on a Dane Brugler thing today, that would have been the tops of any quarterback in the last 2 combines. So if Will Johnson tests like that at 6'2", 200 pounds, he's got everything you want in a cornerback. I see no reason he won't be a top 10 pick. So I like that for Carolina.
Yeah. I want to see if he actually gets to 6'2". I'm not, if I were a betting man, my bet is about 6'1" and 3/8, but whatever, we'll take it.
Yeah. It's still solid for a cornerback. And if he tests well too. You know, you got to test.
That's of course a big thing.
I just want to see him go out there and be healthy and test.
Right. The biggest thing for him is how he do with the medicals. Does anybody find anything that indicates the possibility of a degenerative condition? That's the biggest thing, right? Is he just hurt or is he damaged? And those are two very different things, right? Football players get hurt. If you played in a game, you got hurt, right? The question is, are you damaged? If he's not damaged, then yes, he could go this early.
And there was nothing that seemed like he was damaged, because I know going into the I'm a Buckeye fan, he was like questionable, him and Loveland. I think they made business decisions, and their team still beat us, so I can't even say nothing. Right. But the next pick for the Saints was Walter Nolan. And Jim, if I get any of these wrong, I'm trying to watch the chat, so just let me know if you hear me say one wrong, because I can barely see the screen. If I maximize it, then I can't see the chat. Yep. So Walter Nolan with the Saints pick. Man, that hurts me as a Bengals fan, because I love Walter Nolan. Right. There's these reported character issues, but I don't know. You hear NIL stuff, you hear stuff. You got anything on that? But I love the pick because I think he's a great player.
Okay, so I'm not going to name any names, but I'm very close to somebody who is a very important part of the Ole Miss football staff. If you know me well enough, you'll know exactly who I'm referring to. Okay, what is true is that Walter Nolan is a businessman. Now, some people will criticize that, right? He sees himself as essentially a one-person corporation. He wants to maximize his value. He also wants to make sure that he is protected and respected and all these. Like, if he were in the normal business world, we would be like, wow, what a mature, smart young man. It's only in football where we want people to risk themselves or do certain things that may not be good for themselves long term. And so teams that want kneecap biters, fire breathers, run through wallers will not like Walter Nolan. They won't. They will say, oh, he doesn't love football, blah, 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 blah. He does love football, but he also knows that he would like to be, and once again, people will feel different ways about it, but when he's 44 years old, he doesn't want to be in a wheelchair. He wants to be able to play with his kids. He wants to be able to go for a jog, play tennis. And so you have to decide how you feel about that, right? About a person wanting to have a normal, healthy life for them done playing football. There are people who don't like that, right? As sick as it sounds, there are people who be like, oh, that's going to cost you. And also, yes, he wants to be paid well. So, yes, if you know about the inner workings of his negotiations and whatever throughout his career, he's a guy that is looking to maximize his opportunities and value. And once again, in the business world, be like, that's how it should be. It's only in this thing we want people to say, oh, I love ball, I would play for free, which none of them would do. But he doesn't bother, the same way that Deion Sanders didn't bother trying to pretend to be a guy he isn't. He's a businessman who's a great football player also.
So, how do you feel? We got two more picks in. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
We got two more picks in, and it is back-to-back tackle, or you can say guard for Will Campbell. I would give him a shot.
If you say guard for Will tackle, it's harder to defend the pick, but yes, I got you.
Well, he's listed at guard on here, I believe. So that's the reason that I mention it. For me personally, I've got him at like 6th overall on my board. I think I would stick him at tackle, let him prove that he can't play tackle before I'd ever consider moving him into guard. Agreed. The Bears need help at tackle and guard. So either way, I think it's a solid pick at pick 10. You're getting a guy who I got my top 10 at pick 10. Will Campbell, good choice for me.
I like both those picks. And I feel like there will be a run on offensive tackles. Picking anybody that yes, he's a gackle. Well said. I think that anybody who people believe might be able to start a top-tier starting left tackle is going to go. Right around here, you're going to see a little mini run. I wouldn't be shocked if 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 7 picks were tackles.
Yeah, and then Josh Simmons was the next pick with the 49ers. And if he goes this high, because someone said they thought that was a little early, but if he goes this high, it's because his medical's checked out. And the way he was playing, he played as a top 15 type player.
Yep.
As a Bengals fan, I would be scared to death of taking anybody coming off an injury because it never works for us. But a lot of other teams, it works out just fine.
It works out for the Ravens for some reason. But it never seems to work out for the Bengals.
But Josh Simmons, I think, a good pick there for the 49ers. Cowboys are next on the clock at pick 12, so we'll see what comes in. But what are your thoughts on Josh Simmons while we're waiting on that pick?
So the only thing that I noticed was that, Josh Simmons got a 89.2, I think is what my numerical grade for him, which is right where he was picked, right? A guy that is fringe top 10 in my grading scale. And then, when he goes down, it was like, oh no. And then, this kid Jackson moves over. It's like, oh, and then he ended up grading like within three percentage points. And it was like, huh. So I wonder where he'll go. But Josh Simmons, assuming the medicals are solid on him, is a guy that's going to go, if not here, then within three or four picks of here. Like, he's not going to make it past 16, 17 at the latest, but I think he goes 14, around-ish, 14, 15-ish is probably where he goes. And here is not crazy at all. His technique is fantastic. Footwork is really good, powerful enough.
He was a penalty magnet prior to this year, I will say, at San Diego State and his first year with the Buckeyes.
Right. That's because he used to get, as you know, too far out over his skis. He used to get too aggressive, right? He'd be a little too, overextend. And I think someone just said to him, you're a good enough athlete. You don't have to do that, right? You could sit back, and he was much more patient and poised this particular year.
Got to give Josh Fry a lot of credit, who the Cardinals scooped up as their new O-line coach. He seemed to do a great job all around with him and many others. So we had a couple more picks come in. You talked about that tackle run.
Yep.
So it started there with it started with Will Campbell, Josh Simmons, and then pick 12, the Cowboys went Kelvin Banks from Texas.
Yep.
He might be guard. Some people think he slides into guard. Once again, I do what I did with Will Campbell. I would make him fell first at tackle before I moved him in, depending what your team needs.
Yep.
Your thoughts on Kelvin Banks before we move on to
very smooth athlete, right? A guy who has the feet, has the bend, a tiny bit underpowered maybe. So when people say guard, it's like, well, if that's what you see him as, he needs to get really more powerful in that lower body. But smooth guy, really good mover. Would I love him to be a little bit longer? Would I love him to be a little bit stronger? Yes, right? Because I'm never going to turn down longer and stronger if I can get it. But I think in some systems he could definitely play tackle, and if he can't, then you kick him inside. I think he's going to be good at either position.
I do too. Sure, Robert. Let's do it. I would definitely like to have Kyle Pitts catching passes from Joe Burrow.
Oh, the Bengals would know what to do with Kyle Pitts. Yes, he would suddenly be what everyone thought he might be.
Yeah, you draft him in your fan. The people that's been drafting him and he hasn't worked out, draft him if that happens.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the Dolphins at pick 13. Tyler Warren from Penn State. I mean, this is a guy I got in my top 10. Daniel Jeremiah's got him, I don't know, in his top 6, 7 players. Might have him 4th even. He's got him very high.
He's got him super high. I don't think he goes quite that high, but the NFL is very high on him.
And tight end never seems to. I mean, even Brock Bowers, right? And I had him at 4th on my board last year.
Oh wow,
generational, and he went 13th or something.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's probably where the market starts for a guy like Warren, who's not Brock Bowers. I mean, he's good, but he's not.
Yeah, he's not that pass catcher. He's a very good pass catcher.
Right.
He's a better blocker. He's a better all-around tight end.
He's a better all-around tight end. But yeah, I don't think he goes quite this early in the real world. But maybe he has an incredible combine and pushes his way up into the fringe top 10.
And then we got pick 14. The Colts go with the corner. Azariah Thomas. I probably said that wrong. That's just how I've said the name, from Florida State. So he's long. Florida State's been producing some good corners. Maybe a little early.
It's a little early for him, but he's a fun player. If you take him this early, you are saying to your coaching staff, we really trust you. I watched him in person at the Senior Bowl. He can definitely get lost sometimes, right? He's one of those guys that guesses, and when he guesses right, he looks great. When he guesses wrong, he looks not so great. He can turn and run, right? The hips are there. Not great hands, right? Not great ball skills. He'll never be like a big-time interceptor ever. But he does have he does have length and strength. He fits certain systems. If you play cover 3, particularly, I think he'd do well. And he can play man. I mean, he is a good enough athlete to play man too. But I don't think he's going to be a guy that justifies being picked this early.
Yeah, and if the Bengals person isn't here, we'll get the next 2 picks. But if the Bengals person isn't here, Travis and everybody come, a few of you that's in the chat, you can make that pick. Mike Green, though, went pick 15. Looks like the Bengals pick is in. But the first edge off the board, Mike Green from Marshall, the dismissal from Virginia. I will just say that's something that teams will have to look into. Yep. That'll probably determine his draft value. But other than that, I love the player. I love the tape. I love what he is very good against the run for a guy his size. Yeah, he was 230-something in the summer, but he's
not anymore.
Well, he was up to he might be back down to 230-something at the combine and not weigh in. That happens too.
Right. But I don't think he's going to drop down that low.
No, I don't think so either.
Here's what I'll say. And I've talked a little bit to the staff at Marshall. And if you follow Charles Huff, he's one of the more forthright coaches.
Yeah.
If you're not following Charles Huff, what are you doing? If you're serious about doing this, follow Charles Huff. He won't, tell you every little thing about every player, but he'll let you know if he thinks somebody's a genuinely bad egg. So my understanding, and I don't know every little detail, it was not a good culture fit for him at Virginia, is what I was given to understand. If you know Virginia football, and I grew up in the state, I do know Virginia football. Culturally speaking, they think of themselves almost like Harvard, right? In some ways, they, Thomas Jefferson, like they have a real commitment to certain things. And Mike Green wanted to be a football player. He was, while he went to Virginia initially, I'd love to talk to him. And I meant to whatever. Twice I tried to get to talk to him at the Senior Bowl, and then he left early. But he wasn't a good fit, frankly, for what they do. Virginia Tech, which was also on him early, would have been a better fit for him. Not that they're, not a school we have to do school, but it's not quite the same nose in the air kind of environment that they have in Charlottesville. He wasn't a good fit there. And yes, he wasn't always the best player or best student while he was there, but it wasn't like he was holding up liquor stores, people. I'll tell you that much, if that's what you're thinking. You want to have a strong culture, a strong locker room wherever you bring him in. But my God, if he made it to Pittsburgh, luckily he didn't for the league. If he made it to Pittsburgh, then it would be like a rain of blood. But he is whatever you want in a pure pass rusher, he's got it. He's got moves, he's got speed, he's got power for a guy his size. He can set edges. He wants to be good. Also, you can tell. I mean, you can tell a guy who wants to keep getting better. His hand work is really impressive. His footwork is impressive. His bend is impressive. And like I said, for a guy his size, even when he was at 238 or whatever, you saw power still on his tape, right? He would crash into offensive linemen and they would rock back. So he wasn't he was never just a finesse guy.
Jim, can you scroll back up to pick 16? Okay. Yeah. Emeka Egbuka. I should have remembered an Ohio State guy coming off the board here to the Cardinals. So Egbuka pairing up with Marvin Harrison.
There we go.
Giving Kyler Murray another weapon, a guy in the slot that should just eat, and you're going to have the chemistry of those wide receivers that know how to play off of each other. He's just a damn good player. One of Ohio State's leading receivers, always been kind of second fiddle, if you want to call him that.
Yep.
But he's always been a great player. And I think he can also be a returner because he's done that at Ohio State. So if you need him to go back there and return some punts, he can do that too. So good, solid pick there. Good, safe, solid pick. Him coming off the board before Luther Burden, some people might not love that, but
Burden's more dynamic, but a little less polished.
Yeah, you want the safe pick, you're probably going with Egbuka.
If you want to swing for the fences, you're going for Luther Burden.
I agree. And Jim, when you get a chance to I know this one. It was the Bengals. It was pick 17, so it was James Pierce Jr. And is there any other have you heard about these character concerns for him? It's like, does he love football, or it's almost like I've heard a little bit of that.
And a little bit
I think he's a good player.
And a little bit of privilege stuff, the do you know who I am, a little bit of that. But I mean, once again, he's not out here beating people up or robbing liquor stores or, slinging drugs or something. It's none of that kind of stuff. It's more, he had a bunch of parking tickets that he didn't seem to take very seriously and some other stuff. But it's nicky-knack kind of stuff. And big man on campus stuff. I mean, Dan Marino did worse, kids. If that, you know what I mean? If that's what the game we're playing here. I mean, I know I'm the old guy here, but trust me, There have been guys who did worse. I'll put it that way. Thank God you didn't have social media when Michael Irvin was coming out of Miami. Woo! Woo! Boy. Come on. Well, when we do the after dark.
I think a lot of people know what Michael Irvin was doing, though.
When we do the after dark version of this, I'll tell you the stuff I know because I knew somebody who played on that Miami team that he was on, and but yeah.
I don't know if he'll fit as a Bengals. I don't know if he'll fit the Bengals profile because they have this infatuation with guys between 6'3", 6'5", and 255 to 270 at edge. That's it.
You want Sam Hubbard.
You're not that.
And
they don't
the
like
guy
it.
So maybe they'll go after the next Sam Hubbard, right? Give us Jack Sawyer. He's the next Sam Hubbard.
Yeah, if they take him at 17, that's going to hurt me. And I'm a Buckeye fan, and I'm saying that. But next guy on the list is another guy listed at linebacker here, Jalen Walker from Georgia. I think he's an edge. Going to the Seahawks at pick 18. I think he's a damn good edge. I think just like Abdul Carter, who played linebacker that then moved to edge and had a phenomenal season, I think Jalen Walker, had he done that exclusively, not saying he would be Abdul Carter, but he would be even higher. And I think that's why I'll go back to Daniel Jeremiah again, had him at like 3rd overall.
Yep.
I've got him in my top 15. I don't have him at 3. I've got him closer to 15. Right. But I think he's a very good player, and I think his best football is ahead of him if he focuses on edge and the team is willing to utilize him. Like I know my Bengals wouldn't because they wouldn't like him at edge because he's 245 and 6'2".
Yeah. Right. The market for him starts somewhere just around 10 in my mind. And then I don't see him making it past about 15, 16, especially if he tests the way I think he's going to test. Is he quite Nolan Smith Jr.? No. I mean, Nolan Smith Jr., put up like slot receiver, elite level athletic testing numbers at 238 pounds. He's not quite that. But is he the closest to it amongst the guys in this class? Probably, right? He's an explosive guy. He's got his as you said, his best football is ahead of him. He's still figuring it out. He still only has about 3 moves he trusts. When he gets 3 more moves, to go with that, and gets a little stronger, yes, he'll be a handful to deal with.
Yeah, Jim, when you get a chance to move back up, I hate telling Jim what to do because he's trying to do so much.
I can listen as long as you don't need me to talk back to you. So you guys are doing a great job.
So I might need you to talk back here in a minute because I got to check on something.
So this is one of those mystery box prospects, Shamar Stewart.
Yeah, Shamar Stewart.
He's a mystery box prospect. So
I got some hate on this one, Bill. Yeah, I'm telling you, just because I posted a clip and everybody thought I was crapping on this guy, I'm like, it's his best game with his best clips.
Right. So let me start with, for those who are familiar with the Family Guy episode about the mystery box, right? Where has this prize package which includes a boat and all these other things, and then the other choice is a mystery box, and of course, the mystery box can be anything, including a boat. So he is a mystery box prospect. No one truly knows what he is, and if they tell you they know what he is, they're lying to you. But he has tremendous potential. But potential, to quote Brian Billick, is a 3-syllable word that gets coaches fired. So you have to truly, once again, really believe in your coaching staff if you draft him here. Or even, a little later even, you can probably really trust your coaching staff. Does he have all the stuff you're looking for? Yes, like physically. But his tape, you want... Yeah. It leaves you wanting more.
He doesn't finish. That's why he has 4.5 sacks in 37
in his career, in a 3-year career.
Doesn't finish.
Right. In a 3. Now he said,
37 games, 4.5 sacks.
So I talked to him at the combine. At the Senior Bowl about it. And he said
he's a freak show.
And he said himself, he's working on it. He said himself, I didn't know how to finish. I didn't really understand technique. I didn't know how to flatten it. Like he's all the stuff he's working on. Now, what I'd like to say, do guys get better? Sure. We love a Jabbo. There's a long list of guys we can talk about that got better. Jason Owe that got better. But do they usually get from where they even Travon Walker? But do they get from here to Von Miller? Not usually, right? In terms of production. Do they get here to better? Yes. But here to Von Miller, they don't usually. Now, once again, this guy plays 3-tech also, right? He's 281 pounds. Mm-hmm. And he looks like he's 260. He is put together. He has, like less body fat than you would find on most wide receivers. His body is ridiculous. And so it's a mystery box. Once again, if you draft this guy, you're saying to your coaching staff, turn him into something, right?
Yeah, and if you got a good cut, like, then he might, right? But if you're just banking on him walking in and getting you 7 sacks next season, I'm not banking on it if it's me. That's just me personally.
Right.
And that's not hating on the guy because I think he has a ton of potential. But, we like as a Bengals fan, we have Myles Murphy, and I'm still waiting for him to realize his potential.
And this guy's more talented than Myles Murphy, but less productive.
But right? Same athlete. He was less productive in college. Myles Murphy was a 9+ RAS athlete, coming out. So there was a lot that I liked about Myles Murphy. And it was just like he needs to develop his pass rush and his finish. It's the same. I feel a lot of the things I say about him. And listen, he is a bigger freak show than Myles Murphy at 6'5", 280. I'm not going to disagree with that. All right, we'll move on because we're getting a little behind on the picks.
We could talk about him for an hour, but we won't.
Yes, we could. Ashton Jeanty went pick 22, the Broncos. He's a great back. I got him at 4th overall on my board. It's just how much do you value a running back, especially in a running back class where there's 30 guys that you can
really
draft.
Good running backs, right?
Yeah.
But this pick makes sense schematically, right? If you think about what the Broncos are likely to do with him, it makes sense. He's going to be in an offense very similar to the one he was in at Boise State, and they want to have a true bell cow back, right? They've been doing it. Yes, those numbers are sickness.
Yeah.
Those numbers are absolutely ludicrous.
He was my Heisman pick, but I can't hate on Travis Hunter because what he did was special.
Correct. I'm with you on Jeanty as a Heisman pick as well. But so Austin Jeanty, even if he ends up being more like a 1,400-yard guy in the NFL,
just 1,400? Gosh.
Right. Right. But he ends up being a 1,400 yards, 380 yards in receptions guy for 4 or 5 years in a row. And people almost think of backs as rentals nowadays anyway, so you use them up basically through their rookie contract, and then you move on to the next one. But if he does that for you, essentially sort of like the Raiders did with Jacobs, where you get the most out of him you can for that, 4 years, 5 years, and then move on. But if you get a Super Bowl somewhere in that run, you still
that's all. Yeah, Zeke Elliott, whoever if you get the best of him for 4 years, it's well worth it.
Yep.
Ariante Ursary was the next guy off the board to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who continue to need some line help.
God, yes.
But man, it's a little early for me. I've got him about 40th on my board, but I see the vision. But he needs a lot of work. He needs a lot of things to clean up. Is he a day one starter? I'm not sure. And where are you starting him? You starting him at tackle? You starting him at guard?
All the things we just said about Shamar, not quite the same sort of freak testing wise, probably, but like all
he's supposed to test well. He is supposed to test.
He's going to test well. I think the over under on him in the 40 is like 5 flat to 5.07. He's probably going to have about a 30.5 inch vertical. He's going to be long. He's super long. He's got a lot of things you're going to like. But he's almost that same sort of mystery box, right? Where his best tape, you're like, oh, okay. And then his worst tape was like, oh, oh, okay. He can definitely get fooled, right? You've seen him, definitely get counter moves, give him the flux and things like that. So he's going to have to figure out a few things. But is the potential there for him to become a top-level left tackle? Yes, the potential is definitely there.
Yeah. Jim, can you scroll back up, please? So the next pick was Colston Loveland to the Chargers. I think everyone sees that because of the
I
Jim
think
Harbaugh.
We all know why.
Yeah, if he makes it to 22, I think Jim Harbaugh probably takes him. Unless Ashton Jeanty falls at 22, then I think Jim Harbaugh loves him some running backs. So
correct. I think they'll take their top-rated offensive lineman if Jeanty's not there.
They could take a deep tackle if one falls.
Right. And then if they don't like any of the tackles, then the default, if there's no running back they love and no offensive lineman they love, then I think the default is probably a guy like Loveland.
Yeah. Jadal Barron goes from Texas. And where do you have him to the Packers? Do you have him as a outside corner? I don't think he's an outside corner. I think he's a slot corner / safety / a guy you move around, right? And he's just a good football player.
Right. So if he becomes essentially a more permanently tanned version of Cooper DeJean, you're still going to pat yourself on the back. he's got, once again, a few things on tape that may concern you a little bit. He's another guy that is capable of looking like a true, the term lockdown isn't really a thing I want to use, but a potentially dominant corner at times. He can do that, but he's a guy that can also get left, right? We've seen him get burned, and usually it's because he's aggressive. So you don't want the guy to stop being aggressive, but yeah, he's going to give some plays up because of that aggressiveness. His recovery speed is, I'd say, right around, maybe slightly above average, right? He's not a guy who's going to be able to run away from his mistakes or run back. Like, you look at Quinyon Mitchell, who can get away with certain things because he's got elite recovery. He's not that. He's that next notch below that in terms of recovery speed, but there's a lot to like about him. I feel like this isn't crazy. I'd probably take him a couple of picks later, but this isn't a crazy place for him to go.
Yeah, Daniel Jeremiah is all over the guy. I got him around 30th, I think, on my board.
Right.
But I don't think it'd be crazy to take him,
crazy.
especially a team that has a plan. So you don't let him fall like Cooper DeJean, like some of these guys that fall. Is Starks the next pick?
Malachi Starks.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Malachi Starks, the Vikings take safety, Malachi Starks, Georgia. Another guy that you can move around. He can play some cornerback if you need him to.
Yep.
But he's a good safety.
Yep.
And we done had Nick Imamwari off the board, so the Vikings getting the next safety, because a lot of people have Starks above Imamwari, but Imamwari is going to test like a freak, right?
He's going to test like a freak, yes.
No, well, Imamwari didn't come on. My bad. Imamwari is about to come off the board.
Right.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
A little bit.
So Malachi Starks, 24th overall. Matthew Golden, 25th. 26th
so Golden off the board before Burden is interesting to me.
So Starks goes 24th. Golden going 25th to the Texans, then 26th
interesting
is the Rams, Imamwari. So we'll start with Starks and the Vikings, and then we'll go to Golden and Imamwari. Thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, Starks, I assume they think they found, their guy who's going to take off, be the heir apparent to Hitman Harrison. And he, as you say, he has that versatility. He can cover slots. He can even jump outside. You can use him in your dime packages. He's another guy who can play wherever you need him to play. But free safety is, probably what his best usage. A good mental package, physical package combo, right? He has enough mental ability to be your captain, basically, of the back half of your defense. He can come down in the box if you really need him to. And, he's not a brute exactly, but he can handle himself down there.
Yeah.
And, he can definitely go and stay with most tight ends and most running backs and even some slot receivers, pretty close to step for step. He's going to test above the median line for safeties and probably fairly well for slot corners in terms of his pure athletic skills. So that's a solid pick. And then Golden before Burden is fascinating to me.
Yeah, I mean, Golden had a very good year for Texas. I like Golden a lot, but I'm also like, Burden was my wide receiver too. It hasn't changed. Like, if you just look at production from this season, you're probably going to be a little down on Burden just from production. They didn't have a good team.
No.
Cook isn't a good quarterback.
No.
Just be honest about it.
Yes.
They had a down year. Go watch him from the year before. He's much more explosive, and he makes special plays.
Even as a freshman, he was at times dominant. He took over games as a freshman. So
and Golden was very good this year.
Yes.
And maybe that fits, but I would definitely take Burden if I was the Texans. But
if you swap the two, you drop Golden in Burden's situation, you drop Burden in Golden's situation. Burden's going in the top 5 or 6. Golden's going in the middle of the second, or maybe even later.
Yeah, because he wasn't even on the radar coming into this season, transferring from Houston. He was a mediocre receiver at Houston. He didn't pop at Houston.
Yep.
Is that the next pick? Is Tyler Booker or Imamwari?
No,
We don't want to skip that one. So the Rams, Nick Imamwari from South Carolina. He's going to test well. He's going to be one of the biggest freaks at the combine, and I think he's solidly going to be in that first round.
Yeah, I think he probably goes a little later than this, but not way later. This is probably a maybe literally a pick or two above where he probably goes. Yeah. But there's a lot to like there. He's a really good football player. Oh my God, they let Washington get Burden? Okay, sorry. Let me get
all right, so we'll go to the next one. So we don't want to get all the way there.
Sorry.
Nick Imamwari is a freak. He's going to do well. Tyler Booker, the Ravens, guard from Alabama. I actually think he could go higher than that.
He could definitely go higher than that.
Yeah. Imagine the Ravens getting this guy.
It's a real Ravens.
It happens every year.
It's a Ravens type pick.
Really good plug and play 10-year player. Here you go, Ravens. He's yours. So that's Tyler Booker, and he goes to the Ravens. Great pick. Mykel Williams, a guy I don't necessarily love at edge.
Another mystery box.
It's another. Thank you, Bill. It's a mystery box, and the production hasn't been there. It's like traits and this and that, and it's like he was injured all year. He was injured all year, so I don't know. He's like 50. He's 50. He's around 50 to 55 on my overall board. I need to see more. Even I didn't see him dominate even when
he's healthy. Yep.
Yes.
He flat out terrifies me as a prospect, Dale. I'm going to be honest. He terrifies me as a prospect. Could he turn out to be great? Sure. I mean, maybe he turns out to be, Danielle Hunter, right? Maybe that's what he turns out to be. But boy, it's like saying I'm going to take all the money out of my 401k and instead buy a bunch of lottery tickets. Like, okay, that might work out, right? You might hit, but it feels a little risky to me.
He terrifies me because I can see the Bengals taking this guy. Like, I'm like praying that he goes before pick 17. I see a mock draft and he goes 10th. I'm like, yep, that's a good spot for him. That's what should happen. Because we take this guy, he will never reach his ceiling. He just won't. It just doesn't happen here. Not a guy like that. That's all potential that you're drafting.
It scares me, yeah.
We'll move on. And Luther Burden. This is great for Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is thrilled. Good for Jaden Daniels. He gets Luther Burden with Scary Terry.
I mean, they're basically the greatest show on what do they play on now in Washington? Whatever that surface is.
Is it turf or not? Yeah.
Right. Whatever that surface is. Oh my God. Oh, I mean, wow. It's going to be, you talk about run after catch, like in a whole team full of just run after catch monsters, right? The whole team is just run after catch monsters. Washington is a very potent offense. If they allow this to happen, if you fools allow Luther Burden to fall to the Commanders, woe be unto ye. It's going to be terrible. If they get a defense somehow to go with it, even an okay defense to go with it, they're going to be trouble.
Well, the Eagles aren't going to like it. I'll tell you that.
Nobody's going to like it.
I mean, the Eagles certainly are not going to like it. Where are we at?
We are
Xavier Watts,
the Buffalo
Watts. Bills. So Xavier Watts, man, going in the first round, two safeties came off the board. Somebody takes another safety. I feel like we almost need Jim's opinion on this one because did you take that, Jim? Are you?
No, we have a Bill. Okay. There's a Bills podcaster in the chat. He was being encouraged in the chat to go position elsewhere, but the two draft professors that are here, Randall and I, for the Bills, wanted a different pick, but he went with Xavier Watts. That is a need. So
I like Xavier Watts. I don't know.
I like Xavier Watts too, but
his testing probably isn't going to be well coming in, because we're right at the combine time, right?
Right.
That's probably going to be the thing that hurts him. You love his ball skills. You love everything about him on tape, and maybe he is worth the first round pick. But I think after his testing, I don't think he goes in the first.
It feels to me that if you really love Watts, you're looking to try to get some trade down offers so you can trade down a few picks and still get it. Because I don't think anybody else is going to take him from you. You can probably trade down to maybe even as low as 33 and still probably get him I don't think there's anybody taking him from you. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and we'll go to the Chiefs. Nick Scorton, a guy who was top 10, top 15, a lot of people thought, coming out of Purdue with 10 sacks and didn't have the production. But is that a Texas A&M thing? Walter Nolan didn't have the production thing. Shamar Stewart doesn't have the production. Nick Scorton, but he still managed to put up 5.5 sacks compared to 1.5 for Shamar Stewart. But,
right.
But I like – there's a lot I like about Nick Scorton. Right. How about you?
I'm going to say he's the opposite end of the spectrum because that would be an exaggeration. But all the things we said about Stewart where he doesn't seem to have a plan A, let alone a plan B, Scorton has a plan A, a plan B, and even a plan C at times. He does have a pass rush plan. He does set guys up. He does use certain moves early in the game, knowing he's going to do a counter off them later. Like you see some of that sort of thought process that you see in some of the more advanced pass rushers. I didn't love some of his tape this year. I'm going to have to do some more digging. Did he have a nagging injury? Like there were times he would flat out disappear at times. And I don't, as you said, is that a Texas A&M thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Was he quote unquote playing not to get hurt? I don't know. I mean, I'm going to do some more research, but he has more than enough there to justify going at this, especially this part of the first round. He's almost I won't say a steal, but he's almost a bargain around this point.
Yeah, but I've been seeing him at like, even on some of the boards of like the top draft guys, Brugler's and them, like got him in like almost closer to 50 than they do the first round. And I'm like, I don't know. I still like a lot about this guy.
Right.
Just from both the years. And there's some games this year where he looked great, and he's got that dog in him where like the mentality and the hard worker, the he's going to give constant effort. He's going to work his ass off to go make a play.
Correct.
And and his size, we'll see how he tests, but he's an interesting player to me.
If he tests really well, then he doesn't probably make it even to here.
No. Yeah,
but if he tests really poorly, then maybe he makes it to the second round. But I think he's going to test well enough.
Yeah, if he tests well enough, I think people are going to stop talking about him in the 50s. They're going to be like, "Oh yeah, he is who we thought he was in the beginning."
Right. Right.
So Jim, where are we at?
We are at
32 is. Who was
Eric.
32? Elijah Arroyo in the first round to the Eagles.
Woo!
I mean, right now the Eagles can do no wrong, but wow.
But we're talking about a guy who has a somewhat frightening injury history.
Oh, he's been nothing but injured prior to this year.
Yes, right. So I'll be honest. If he went,
I'll be right back, guys.
I'll continue. If he went at this spot in the second round, I might say it's a tad bit early. Him going here in the first feels wild. Now, once again, the Eagles are playing with house money, blah blah blah. But and I could see them wanting a tight end, but I don't think they're going to reach like that for a guy with that kind of injury history. He could get some bad news in the combine. I mean, he's been injured a lot, and not little nagging injuries, like big injuries. I'll be shocked really shocked if he goes below 50, right? If he goes below 50, I'll be shocked. If he goes before the 50th pick, I'll be shocked. Even 50 would be maybe a little late, but yeah, this might be the earliest I've ever heard of anybody selecting Arroyo. I watched him. Did he have a fantastic Senior Bowl? Sure. But he's not a great blocker. He's an okay blocker. He's not a great blocker. He has a scary injury history, and I think he's going to test okay, but not blow people away in testing. 4.68 probably-ish, somewhere in that range in the 40, 34 and a half inch vertical, probably a 7, 14, 15, 3-cone, maybe even higher, and probably a short shuttle in the 4.24, 4.25 range. I mean, decent numbers, but I think he's going to blow it. He'd have to have an amazing combine, first of all, medicals and then testing-wise to go this early, but I don't think it'll happen. And then we've got, is that Connolly the next pick, or was there a pick before that? Oh, no, Jackson Dart's before that, right? Can you scroll up a little bit, Jim?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Sorry, Eric Amenor. So that's an interesting. He's a possession receiver, and while it's not impossible someone can take a possession receiver that early, he's going to have a really good combine, I think, to go as early as that pick. He catches virtually everything. Some people want him to see if he can put on weight and become a tight end. I think he's just a big receiver. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey is sort of a guy I think he could be. And Jeffrey had a solid career, but this does still feel maybe a tiny bit early for him. Scroll up just a little bit. I think there's somebody before Henderson I need to see. Maybe
give me a minute.
I think I'm not able to see like 2 picks.
No worries.
There we go. And then Jackson Dart. So Jackson Dart is most likely the third quarterback off the board. And this makes more sense than some of the places I've seen people mock him. He should not go in the first round. Now, it's not impossible he could because of the thing we talked about, the quarterback tax. But he's a developmental prospect. Frankly, all the quarterbacks are to some extent developmental, with the one who's the least developmental being Cam Ward. Things you like about Dart, he's a tough guy, right? runs probably a little more than he should and runs probably a little harder than he should. Sort of like, Baker, Reagan, Mayfield mentality with his running. He probably should run a little less than he does, but he's a tough guy. He has a good arm. He can learn, he can learn. He's a guy who's not unable to learn systems. Still, he needs to work on a lot of things. Decision making. I mean, his worst tape is scary bad, but his best tape is not scary good, but it's pretty good. So if everything works out, you're getting a slightly above the median starting quarterback. If everything works out, if things don't work out, you're getting a probably right about the median backup. And maybe that's still worth an early second rounder nowadays. But to me, he probably should go slightly lower than this, but he probably won't once again because of the quarterback tax. And then is Hairston the next pick after? Yeah, no, Connolly's next pick. So Connolly is a guy that unfortunately got made famous by Mike Green in one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl. But I want to put some context to that. He was playing right tackle for that rep. He is not a right tackle, or at least he has not been a right tackle previously. He's been a left tackle. They flipped him over literally like 2 reps before that in one-on-ones. So he's literally played 2 reps of right tackle prior to that rep against Mike Green, who's just the best pass rusher in this draft. And
he's young, true junior. So
he's true junior, right? So you add those things together. It would not shock me if he goes to Kansas City. You know what I mean? Like if he's a late first rounder, I wouldn't be shocked at all. So Connolly making it here doesn't surprise me one bit. And then there's a pick before Henderson, right? I think we're missing one. I'm missing one. Right. And then Maxwell Harrison. So this is
the Jags definitely could use a corner. They got Mason Graham in the first in this mock draft. So
So they're clearly trying to fix that defense, which I understand. Hairston is your sort of do everything corner. He can tackle, he can cover. I don't think he's amazing at any one thing, but he's good enough at a little bit of everything. If you think about what Malcolm Butler was like before Malcolm Jenkins was like before he moved to safety, sort of that ish kind of corner who could do a little bit of everything. I think he's probably average-esque as a pure athlete at the position, which is fine, depending on what you want to ask him to do. If you're not asking him to just play man all the time, that still can be fine. But can do a little bit of all the things you're going to ask a corner to do. He can play bump.
Travion was the next pick. I can't remember which team, but
Raiders.
The Raiders. The Raiders.
Yep. I think he's going to test super well. I see they take Quinshon Judkins. I think it's the right church, wrong pew. I have Judkins going to them. They're right there with that pick. They could go with Henderson. They could go with either one of those two, quite frankly. I just like Judkins slightly better. I like them both, but I think Judkins is a little more. Yes, thank you, Robert. Look at you being a caring, kind person. But I think Judkins is a little more do everything as a running back. I think Henderson's a little more get to the edges. Not that he can't run between the tackles. What you're saying was once true. The Raiders are no longer quite the slaves to the 40 they once were. They've changed their drafting philosophy a little bit from those days, sir. I am aware. Trust me, I've been following them for a long time. And they used to just go out and draft the Darius Haywards Babes of the world and and let everything else be darned. They have changed it up. They are now looking at other things. And once again, here's the proof of it. They took Josh Jacobs, who ran 4.61. So clearly they have unburdened themselves from the just looking at 40 days, young man. So they clearly are able to evaluate slightly differently than the way they used to. I just think that, either one could go there, but I'm projecting Judkins to them there. But I could see them drafting Henderson as well. And then after that is
that Armand Membu? That is
scroll up. Yeah, there's Membu.
Yep.
That's another one of those.
I got him in my top 15, so I think this is an absolute steal for the Patriots who need offensive line.
Yes.
So to get an offensive lineman after getting a receiver, okay, Drake May, we're actually going to help you out here, brother.
Here's what I like about Membu. He never gets beaten the same way twice, right? You kind of like that, right? If you speed rush him, you're not going to beat him. The next time you can't just speed rush him, right? You got to have something different. If you beat him with speed, the next time you come at him, you can't just speed rush him. He forces you to come up with different ways to beat him. he is maybe the best pure redirect guy, right? In this whole tackle class of getting here and then back there, right? If you need a guy that has really good lateral movement, he might be the best of the group.
He's got some nasty hands too.
He's got hands and feet.
Yes, he's going to test well with his athleticism and his feet and everything.
Yep,
he's going to test like. I don't think he gets out of the top 15, top 20.
Right. And if he does,
so hell of a pick.
If he somehow makes it to, like you mentioned, the Ravens, if he somehow makes it to the Ravens, that's it. If he somehow makes it to the Ravens, that's it. That's all.
Yeah, I'm just going to curse a lot when that happens.
And
who's
then
after
the next
Mimbu,
pick
Jim?
is...
Could you scroll back up,
one.
Please?
Donovan
Jackson, so a guy we talked about earlier, to the Bears. So the Bears are doubling up here.
As well, they ought to.
And they can go guard or tackle. If one of you don't work at tackle, the other one at guard, tackle. One of you is the left tackle, one of you is left guard. We'll figure it out. Right, exactly.
Once again, we just want to get the best 5 out there. And he's going to be, worst case scenario, a swing player, right? Even as a rookie, he's going to be in your rotation. And the fact that he has played multiple positions makes him a chef's kiss position versatility player. And they need that, right? They need someone who can play multiple positions at a high level, which he's already proven he can do. He's going to test, not freak show, but above average in everything. He's going to be above average in every part of the test.
Yeah, he's supposed to test. His, I think, 10-yard split is supposed to be incredible.
Well, once again, I think he'll test above average in everything.
Yeah.
I don't know about
he doesn't play like he is phenomenal, but he was on the Feldman freak list coming into the season, and some of those numbers there, and we'll see how it goes.
I want to see how
I agree. No, I agree. I agree, because that was one of the things I put was like, he's going to test better. He's better athleticism.
Sometimes sometimes those Feldman freak guys, when later you see them, remember, wasn't Robert Condici supposed to be this generational athlete too? And then his testing was just, all right.
Yeah.
He wasn't a freak.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying, like, supposed to. We'll see.
I know what you're saying. I think he'll be above average in everything. If he's a freak, I'll be somewhat surprised because, as you said, he just doesn't show it. But
yeah, I don't see it.
What is the term we like to use? Closet freak? Is that the term? But scroll up just a tiny bit. There's I think 2 picks I need to see. Yeah, there we go.
There was another one, wasn't there?
He's a rocket.
There we go.
Ravel. Yeah, Siobhan Ravel, corner, who, if he didn't get injured, he's a first-round pick, right. I think.
That's the only thing that keeps him from that 25 to 32 range is his injuries. If he was able to fully finish the season and test like the way I think he'd test, he's going no later than somewhere in that, like I said, 25 to 32 range. Another one of those guys can do a little bit of everything. Bump and bail, shuffle bail, straight up man. He can play cover, quarters, cover 3, cover 2. Like he can play pretty much any defense you want at a fairly high level. Has enough size, has enough athletic ability. He checks all the boxes, as they say. I don't think he's, once again, a guy who's incredibly great at any one thing, but he has a little bit of everything that you need.
And the next guy was Donovan Ezerico.
Yep.
I got him. I got him in my top 30. Like,
that's another guy who I think could rise. Well, you're going to look smart
when
he goes to the combine.
Size, but he's got the long arms, and the long arms at edge matters.
When he gets to the combine, Dale, you're gonna look smart, Dale, when he goes to the combine. And I'm thinking about 4.57. I think he's gonna have about a 36.5, 37-inch vert, probably about a 10.6 broad. He's probably gonna put up about 23 reps on the bench. He's probably gonna run a 3-cone around 7.08. Probably gonna have.
And everybody's gonna go back and look at the production, and they're gonna go, "Oh, he did all that. Oh, his tape is." Really good.
His tape is really good. In my mind, he was the second best of the edge players at the combine. I mean, the Senior Bowl. To me, it was Mike Green and then Ezerico next.
Yeah, they're 2 of my top 4.
And then we next have. Oh, scroll back up a little bit.
I think it was Jack Bech with the.
I like Jack Bech. This feels a little early for a.
It does. He doesn't. Where's the separation? Where's the speed? Where's the this? Where's the that?
Once again,
very good contested catch player. Good player. You root for the kid, but I'm not taking him here personally.
He's a fantastic young man. He's going to play for 8 to 10 years in the NFL as a wide receiver 3. But this feels a little early to get your wide receiver 3. So I'm a little quizzical of that pick. He's going to run somewhere between 4.58 and 4.62. He's going to have about a 34-inch vert. Now, I mean, physical testing.
The hope is he's Puka Nacua. He becomes Puka Nacua.
But where did Puka Nacua get drafted?
5th round.
Right. So
I know. I'm saying.
So here's a guy who is, if everything works out perfectly, becomes Puka Nacua. And you're asking a lot, right? Because
I know. I'm just saying this is
that's a lot. He's the kind of guy that I think will be a good football player. He'll play on special teams.
I agree.
He'll Bill Belichick would have loved Jack Bech. Loved Jack Bech, right? He would have been, man, would he have been, he would have been the patriot of patrioting. But there's nothing about him that says he should go this early.
That's Anthony's rebuttal.
I hear you, Anthony. I hear you. I was trying to help you out, brother.
I'm trying to help you out too, but still, you're asking a lot for a guy to, like, Puka Nacua is the exception, not the rule. And the problem is that when you try to get lightning to strike twice in the same place, it rarely happens. That's the only issue I have with that.
I do like Jack Bech, though.
I like him too. But this is
we don't like him that much.
Right. It's probably about 70-ish picks too early, but I do like, or maybe somewhere between 50 and 70 picks too early, but I like the kid a lot.
All right, Jim. Sorry, it's your show.
Theory, by the time the draft cycles back to the Jets in round 3, I bet we're about to see a run on wide receivers. Sure. I don't know that for a fact, but I don't necessarily think that I think the supply is less than the number of teams that need it.
Oh, there's a lot of guys who can do what Jack Bech do in this draft. I mean, when a guy has no special qualities, you can find that guy all the way. There'll be guys undrafted who will have the same skill set essentially as Jack Bech. So I disagree that you need to reach for a guy who's like Jack Bech. If you're looking for a guy who's going to run sub 4.3 and you reach on him, I'm like, okay, at least I can justify that. Or he's 6'5" and he runs low 4.5s. I can kind of justify it because there's not many guys who have that. Or he's incredibly elusive and nobody can stay with him, like the Williams kid. I can kind of justify it. But when a guy has no special qualities and he's just a hard worker and he's tough and all that cool stuff, there's just so many guys like him that I can't justify the pick. That's all I'm saying. There's too many guys like him.
All right. Can we catch up on some of the picks?
Yes, let's get caught up. Yep.
So Derek Hart, how did he fall this far? I mean, I think he's a first.
It's like asking about. We're going to say this again in about a couple more picks, Dale. But it doesn't make any sense. But it's just people forgetting. I think people forgot. That's what
but San Francisco, they'll take it because they need.
No, I think Alfred Collins is still available, Will, but we'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah, he'll be there soon. But yeah, then TJ Sanders. So 2 D tackles back to back.
Yep.
TJ Sanders to the Cowboys, a lot to like with him. But Derek Harmon, what a steal! Cowboys should have traded up at that point to get Derek Harmon. It's
a huge steal. I could see
JTT to the Colts.
The market on Harmon for me starts with the Steelers, right? The Steelers pick on down is where the market starts for me on Harmon. And then if you'll scroll back up just a little bit. Yeah. So Tiamalo, he's sort of a tweener-ish kind of player. What you like about him
he's an edge, but he is more of a run defender, but he had put up over 10 sacks this year. He had a great playoff run.
Right. But that doesn't change who he actually is as a player. you would need a certain situation for him to.
He doesn't have the bend. He doesn't have the explosiveness.
He's not super athletic. He's not
edge.
super twitchy.
Yeah.
He's got some Epinesa to him, and so if you like a guy like Epinesa, you're going to kind of like a guy like Tiamalo too. But I feel like he needs a certain situation to produce at a high level. He was in that situation, right? Will he find that same situation at the next level? Maybe. But once again, the chances aren't fantastic. I think he's going to be one of those guys you kind of move around. The ceiling, like if everything works out, maybe becomes like a Justin Matabiki. If everything turns out perfectly, right? He could be that kind of player where you kind of kick him inside or kick him outside at various situations. 4-eye, 5, 7, 9. I just don't think he's athletic enough to be a dominant, pure pass rusher at the NFL level.
This might be one of the bigger stills of the draft with the Falcons pick.
I told you we were going to say this.
Like, he's supposed to test. We talked about this on Bengals and Brews today. Like his testing is supposed to be incredible.
Yep.
He had 117 tackles, 5 sacks. He's a former edge in high school.
Yep.
He can cut. He has one of the best coverage grades per PFF for a linebacker. He is an absolute beast. And for him to fall this far, because I said I wouldn't be mad if the Bengals took him at 17.
Yep.
Because somebody mocked him there, and I said, at first I was like, no, I don't like that. And then you dig into the guy more, and you hear about this, and knowing what he's about to do at the combine, you go, oh, no, that would be just fine.
That's just fine.
And here he goes at 46.
It's crazy. You're talking about essentially a better version of Kyle Van Noy is what you're getting when you get a guy like Jahad Campbell. He could theoretically play any one of the linebacker spots at a reasonably high level.
6'3", 245.
That's what I'm saying. You're getting a better version of Kyle Van Noy, a guy who's he's going to test in the probably top 3 percentile in the last few years at his position.
Absolutely. And
is productive. Like there's no real hole, in his game. And yes, if he somehow goes here, it'll be one of the great steals of certainly at this point, maybe the steal of this point in the draft. You talk about Harmon, who was certainly a steal too, but this is ridiculous. Yeah. And once again, there's no way he gets past the Ravens. If for some reason he's on the board where the Ravens, I hate to keep terrorizing you with this.
But it's true. It's true. Every year
no way he makes it.
I go, the Ravens always have the draft I wish we took almost every year. They're good at what they do, and I respect it. Who is after?
And then after him is.
Grace Abel, made himself a lot of money. Down there at the Senior Bowl. 5 position versatility, but I think he sticks at the interior. I don't think you want to play him at tackle in the NFL.
Yeah, I think he's a right guard. He could play any one of the 3 interior positions at high level, but when you see his right guard tape, you're like, oh, right golf clap. Terrific at. He fights tooth and nail, right? Terrific at getting back into the play. Like when he gets beat, he doesn't stay beat, right? If he loses contact, he finds that guy. I love how he never gives up on a block. He will fight and scratch and fight. He didn't lose many reps, and even the ones where he quote unquote lost, he was in it to win. He was in it to the very the very last beat, last gasp. He will redirect and turn and squirm and whatever to try to get a block landed. So even when his technique breaks down, he's still out there just trying to get it done. Strength, good. Feet, above average. Punch could be better. I mean, like his ability to just get people off him could be a little bit better. But he sees twists and stunts well. He identifies things well. He's good getting out in space on screens. He's a menace to linebackers and defensive backs when he's out on the move. He doesn't miss moving targets very often. There's a lot to like about him.
Yeah. Jim, can you scroll up when you get a second? So we're after Tate Ratledge, the Dolphins. Yeah, some people, I see a lot of him going in the 3rd, but I see the vision for him going in the 2nd. He's been a good player. Yep. Like the injury this year, if you watch him right when he comes off the injury against Kentucky, that's not the best tape to watch. He wasn't 100%. He didn't look great. So if you just watch that tape, you're going to say, I don't know about this guy. He kind of sucks. Well, guess what? That's not him as a player. He's got like 3-4 years of tape. So go watch some of the other
don't
games.
Just watch from all of one season if you're trying to really evaluate talent. Please watch multiple seasons of players, people.
Unless they've only played one, and then
then they shouldn't be going this early if they only played one. But I mean, that's just me. I'm not those guys going to bite on a 1 year wonder. It's just not my flavor.
Well, crazy people like all of us that are like probably on this show and stream in the chat. We've already watched these guys the year before. We're watching them the next year.
Correct. And then it's this is one of my favorites. This is one of my guys.
I love him too. I like this pick. I'd be so happy. I know he's older. I love Darius Alexander from Toledo.
So, things to like about him. Once again, I mentioned the Madubuike thing, right? And he's bigger, but he's got a lot of those things that you like about Madubuike. He has really developed pass rush for a guy who plays on the interior. He has a pass rush plan. He's got moves.
You can move him up and down the line.
I mean, I'm not calling him Chris Jones because, well, nobody's Chris Jones. But can you use him as a Temu version of Chris Jones? Yes. He's going to test above average also.
At least give him fucking wish. It don't have to be Temu. Shit.
Right. There you go. If he runs 4.94, I won't be shocked. He could run anywhere from there to maybe 5.1. But yeah, I won't be shocked at all if he runs as fast as 4.94. If he has a 32-inch vert, I won't be shocked. Like you could tell he's a good athlete. And he's got length. He's got strength. And like I said, he's got a good package of moves. Like, this is a guy that knows how to rush the passer. And
how much do you put into age? Because I know he's apparently going to turn 25.
Yeah, so that's why he's not a first-round pick. I mean, in my mind, that's why if he were 22, once again, would he make it past the Steelers? You know what I mean? Like, you're talking about a guy that has a Cam Hayward-esque skill set, but he's just old. I mean, that's the reason why he's not a first.
Yeah, well, look at Cam Hayward. How old is he, and what's he still doing? So you're telling me I could get 10, 12 years of this guy still in the NFL?
He's one of my favorites. He's one of my favorite prospects in the whole draft class.
I agree. I love him. So I love this pick. This is such a Ravens pick, but the Bengals took it. So
way to go, way to go. See, there you go. Something to smile about, Dale.
Yeah, you guys made me happy. Jonah Savanaia to Seattle. So I think he's going to kick into guards. Played right tackle at Arizona. Yep. Played opposite of Jordan Morgan, who came out in the draft last year. Yes, who's the left tackle there. I like Savanaia. I have him a lot higher than this, so I think it's a solid pick. No, I wouldn't say a lot higher, but I got him probably 20 spots higher. Yeah.
Yep.
10 to 20.
Once again, he's one of the guys that's in the mix from that rush I talked about on – and once again, he probably does end up, probably playing guard, but he could play right tackle in a pinch. So you're talking about a guy who can play guard or right tackle, and that position flexibility. Once again, some teams only dress 7 guys on game day from the offensive line group. Those are bold teams. I would do 8 just because things happen, but some teams dress 7. God bless them. And if you're going to dress 7, you need at least one guy who can play, guard and center. At least one guy can play tackle and guard. And so he's that guy. He can be a swing tackle. He can play guard. And he could develop into a starter down the line probably at guard. But could he play right tackle once again? I think he could.
Yeah, I think he could.
And this is another one of the guys that's sort of a steal. Collins was a guy that
I'm not as high on Collins. I think he's a run defender. But at the same point in time, a guy like Tyleik Williams, also a run defender.
Right. So here's what I'll say. I don't think he ever becomes a lot more than he is, but what he is enough to be a day one starter. And do I think he becomes great? My projection is like 3 Pro Bowls in his career. It depends on what he does.
Well, Pro Bowl don't mean anything.
I wouldn't say it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean what it used to mean. I wouldn't say it doesn't mean anything. Like, guys who are flat out bad aren't making the Pro Bowl. But yes, guys who are slightly above average do now make the Pro Bowl. But here's what I would say. Think about the teams that we saw get flat out gashed in the run game, including the Washington Commanders and others. But a guy like him, think of what he could do for certain teams. A guy like him, even if he never has more than 3 sacks in a season in his career, if he just becomes that high-level run plugger, you've already forced that team to throw the football as opposed to gashing.
He'll get 4 or 5 sacks one year because of the effort. That's what I see on his tape.
There you go. And to me, that's almost like a bonus. You're getting to me, he's where'd he go? What pick was this? This is pick number. What pick was this?
51.
Oh, okay. Well, then it's not that big a steal. He's my number 50 prospect. So it's
there you go. Yeah.
There's one pick above.
He went where you thought he'd go. All right. So next is Savion Williams to the Steelers at 52. So basically, they want Cordero Patterson back, but younger.
That is kind of what it feels like.
I mean, that's who he is. Like the receiving production hasn't been there, but he's a do everything guy.
He
can run passes. He can run the ball. You can put him at returns. I don't know how much he did that at TCU, but he's a good player. I like him. I don't think it's a huge reach at 52.
It's a little bit of a reach.
You better have a vision for him.
Yes, you better have a vision for him. It's a little bit. To my mind, it's a little bit of a reach. He's the kind of guy that if this is a round later, I don't bat an eye, right?
I agree.
If he goes in the top, I
got him around 80, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, right. If he goes around later, I don't bat an eye. But I bat an eye here. I feel like guys like him usually become something, but they don't become usually they don't even become a wide receiver 2. They usually become a wide receiver 3/gadget-ish player. And I feel like you can find that guy later.
Yeah, Cordero Patterson went in the first, and
right, but that should not have happened.
He shouldn't. He should have been a 3rd-round pick.
That's the point I'm making.
I agree. No, I agree completely. Tyler Boyd's still on the board. So how do you feel about that? I don't want to make somebody make the pick here,
but it does raise questions in one's mind.
Higher on your board than Alfred Collins.
Yes, not way higher, but about eight picks higher. Yeah, about 8 spots higher. Darian Porter next.
Corner, yeah.
He is an enormous corner. He is really, really big. Like I stood right next to him. He's large. He's a very large corner.
But he didn't hardly play, right? Prior to this year?
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'll say.
That's my only concern. I got him around here. I don't think it's a bad pick.
Yeah, it's not I have him a few picks later, but not wildly later. Tail end of the second, early, maybe even early 3rd. But yeah, now once again, he hasn't tested. If he tests super well, then he can go even earlier than this. He didn't look like a super athletic guy. He looked like a good enough athlete. He has sort of makeup kind of speed. Like he's not a click and close kind of guy. He's more like a give me a little bit. Once again, because he's long-legged, right? So long-legged corners can be good, but you worry about when they get on those smaller, quicker guys at times. Once again, that kid from Washington State gave him the business a couple of times in one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, Kyle Williams. Yeah, he got on my like. I was like, why am I been sleeping on Kyle Williams? Like, I gotta dive into him more. Jaden Higgins, a guy I was not sleeping on. Yes. I think that's a good pick for the Packers. I think he could end up being their wide receiver 1. I believe that.
Wow.
They got a good wide receiver core. I like Jaden Higgins. I like
Jaden Higgins too. I think he's a wide receiver 2. 1 would surprise me.
For the Packers, with the weapons they have around him, I could see it. I'm
not saying it's impossible.
I think this is about where I have him on my board, but I think he has the potential to be a wide receiver 1. And I mean, you got Dobbs, you got these other guys around him, and he's going to eat.
Watson,
Jacobs in the backfield. Yeah, I just think.
I mean, he does feel like a guy that they would pick because they like that type of receiver. I'll be pleasantly surprised if he develops into a 1. I think he'll be a really elite level wide receiver 2, though. That's where I see him. I think he's an elite level wide receiver 2.
I mean, that's fair. Like a lot of teams, yeah, but I think he could develop into that 1 for the Packers. There's just something about that kid I really like.
Oh, I like a lot of things that you like. I just feel like, generally speaking, someone who becomes wide receiver 1 either is an incredibly crafty player, right?
Yeah.
Who maybe they aren't super physically gifted, but they make up for it in other ways.
Well, who's your Packers wide receiver 1 if they just drafted him?
Well, I mean,
it's him by default. Come on now.
I wouldn't say it's him by default. I mean,
no, it's a good chance that he becomes
with a lot of other guys. They're pretty deep at the position. In case you hadn't heard,
but Christian Watson gets hurt constantly.
Well, Christian Watson isn't a wide receiver one.
No.
That's the thing that they need to wrap their head around. That I think that at some point they need to just say, okay, we're doing what the Rams.
But Wicks is a 3 or 4. Dobbs is a good number 2 weapon.
Yep. But I think Jaden Reed, if they would just accept it, I know they don't like the fact that he's the smallest of the bunch.
Yeah,
but
I do like
they need to just accept that he's there. I know he's the slot, but he's your best wide receiver. Just accept it. Get over it, Packers, and just accept that he's your best wide receiver. But I know they don't like it. I know they don't wish that was true. And then who's the next
Shamar
pick?
Turner for the Bills, pick 56, I believe, is next. Didn't have a great season.
No,
Hampton. Okay,
oh,
yeah,
Marion Hampton.
Yeah, Chargers.
That's a great spot for him.
So they went tight end, running back. Jim Harbaugh is so happy right now.
That is a very Chargers situation for Marion Hampton. So things you like about him. He's a big back who's going to test well athletically. Things you don't like about him. Not much of a receiver. Not great at it as a receiver. An okay pass. No, not okay. An above average pass protector. He's above the median as a pass protector. I'd like to see him break more tackles for a guy with his height, weight, speed profile. I always wondered why he got taken off his feet so often by DBs and smaller linebackers. Like, it's one thing if a 240-pound guy blasts you, but I'd see 208-pound guys take him off his feet. I didn't love that. I'm a little surprised for a guy with his height, weight, speed profile. He doesn't break more tackles. And he's not super elusive. Like, he's for his size, maybe above average elusive, but he's not freak show. He's not going to lose people. He's not going to disappear, right? He takes some hits, but he fits what they like to do. He fits their system. I think he could be that's a good spot for him.
Yeah.
And then we've got
Shamar Turner.
Oh, the other Shamar. Yeah, Shamar Turner.
Didn't have a good season.
Nope.
Even true pass sets was like 5 point something win rate.
Yep.
True pass sets. And he played almost edge last year when they had McKinley Jackson and Walter Nolan playing the D tackle spots. And he looked better. His tape was a lot better the year before.
Because he's more comfortable.
I had him as a top. Like, I'd be cool with this pick here from his tape the year before. But what's he going to be in the NFL? He's going to be a D tackle. And we've seen him play a year at D tackle, and it wasn't great.
Great.
I have this guy as a 4th-round guy. This is one of those I don't love, but maybe it's a Texas A&M tax.
The Texas A&M curse. So if he's a move-around piece, right? Once again, speaking of Texas A&M, if he's Michael played with the Seahawks for like 11 years from Texas A&M.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
He had a brother
Bennett,
right. So best case scenario, he becomes Michael Bennett, right? Now, once again, how often does the best case scenario happen? But if he's that guy, if he somehow becomes that, then you're happy-ish with the pick. But he doesn't have enough, especially what you've seen on tape at the position you're projecting him to feel comfortable, to sleep well.
He didn't play in the Senior Bowl because of an injury.
Right. Correct.
So that doesn't help my feelings of wanting to take this guy.
It doesn't fill you with confidence?
No, it does not.
Yeah. Once again, a round and a half to 2 rounds later, I don't bat an eye. It's a little early, and you're really sort of hoping for him to maximize things that he has not shown. The arrow has not pointed up on the things you want him to maximize.
Well, the very next pick is Tyleik Williams to the Panthers. And like, why wouldn't the Bills just take Tyleik Williams?
Whoops. Right. The guy that you wanted without having to project so much for the best case scenario goes the next pick. That does feel a little ironic, right? It's like rain on your wedding day. So you had a shot.
Ironic.
Right. You had a shot at the guy you wanted, but you took this other guy. Now, I want to make it clear that I think that this kid plays in the league for 7 to 9 years and becomes a decent player, but Tyleik Williams is probably a better version of the guy you just drafted.
Yeah.
And then
And Tyleik Williams is probably giving you a bigger day one impact, at least as a run defender.
Scroll back up.
Is it Wyatt Milam?
Yeah, there it is. Yep, there it is. Wyatt Milam.
West Virginia. He's listed as a guard, and I think he is going to be a guard. Terrible Senior Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is that because he was playing guard, Bill? Or because
I think it's a combination of things. He's underpowered. And it shows up a little bit on tape, but when you see him up close, he looks. Remember Nate Solder, where Nate Solder would sometimes get like just ragdolled sometimes, where it's like, oh, you skipped leg day. Like you see a little bit of that when you see Milam in person. He's not quite as slender as Solder, not quite as long as Solder, but he's got some of that underpoweredness in the lower body that scares me a little bit.
And then another Ravens pick after Benjamin Morrison, like he's a top 30 player, he's a top 20
and he
player.
Falls to the Ravens.
But I will say this, the hip injury scares the hell out of me because a hip injury for a corner is a scary thing. So I could see him falling to a pick like this because if teams are even on the fence about the hip injury,
right,
then they're going to.
But you know who loves a scratch and dent sale? The Ravens.
Yeah.
Ravens love a scratch
and it works out.
And then we've got
Cameron Williams, no tackle. Yeah, he should have went back to school for another year. Honestly,
He should have.
Because when he had he was injured against Ohio State and had that awful game.
Yeah.
But his whole season wasn't that great, but he was getting his hype because of what he could be. It was once again the mystery box.
The mystery box. He's probably in the mix for OT1 next year if he comes back and stays healthy, has a better year. He's probably cost himself a little money by coming out, but especially with NIL, whatever. The point is that
he went in the second round here. He's got a chance to still do something, and he goes to the Lions, who do great with linemen. So that would be a great landing spot.
It's a good landing spot. I agree.
Yes.
Yep. And then after that is
Jack Sawyer to the Redskins.
Jack Sawyer. Well, they can use him.
You get Sam Hubbard. No.
He is kind of Hubbard-esque. I mean, at the risk of making lazy comps.
Same skin color, same everything.
He's really height, weight. I mean, he's very similar. So off the charts character.
Yeah.
And right, exactly. I mean, he's going to give you everything he's got on every play.
What's he got?
Well, that's the thing. He's not super talented. He's going to run about 4.74. He's going to knock out 22 to 24 reps on the bench. He's going to have a 7.27, 7.28, somewhere in that 3-cone, a 4.29, probably short shuttle. And that'll probably be his best testing, probably the short shuttle. He's quick-ish, not super fast, he has no special quality.
No, he doesn't have the bend. He doesn't have the burst.
Not super bend. That's super
high
bursty.
effort. He's
high effort.
Good, solid run defender.
Did you love Kyle Vanden Bosch? Did you? If you get a warm, fuzzy place in your heart for Kyle Vanden Bosch, this is your guy. Did you love Aaron Schobel? Did you love? If those are your guys, like if you just have a big spot in your heart for those guys, you're gonna love him too.
Yeah, and that's like. There's some people that are Ohio State fans like I am that are like, 17, Jack Sawyer. I'm like, no, it wouldn't. That's a terrible idea.
That's a terrible idea.
Like, I can love the player and what he's done in Ohio State, and I can understand as a draft prospect, he's not that guy.
Right. He's going to be a good football player for a long time, but there's no justifiable reason for taking him.
He's not going to be a 10-sack guy in the NFL. He'll get you 6, 7, maybe 1 year on pure effort.
Yep, on pure effort. He's going to be good in all areas. He's going to be good against the speaking of Ravens, who was that stand-up white pass rusher they had? Oh, Kruger, right? Thank you. Kruger-esque, right? A guy who he's gonna set hard edges. He's gonna give you that. Hey, maybe might even bust out with a 7-sack season if everything goes right. But yeah, he's that effort, toughish guy who's everybody respects. He's going to play through injuries and give you everything he got.
Yeah, Trey Harris. I like him, man. If he put up 1,000 yards in what did he play? 6, 7, 8 games? It wasn't very many.
7 whole games and part of the.
It might have been. Yeah, I was gonna say, the one he came in and caught like a touchdown and then he was injured again.
Yep.
He was doing everything he can. He's a good receiver, and he showed the ability to go deep and the deep ball. But his tape from the year before. He was a dog, like after the catch.
Yep.
So he gets the ball after the catch, and he's just stiff arming dudes. He doesn't make people miss. He's not fast. He's not elusive.
Right.
He's strong.
If Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuels had a baby, that baby would be Trey.
Yeah. So I think that's a great pick. At the end of the second round, you're getting a Trey Harris.
Yep.
That's a great pick there.
That's a great pick.
Next, Caleb Johnson, running back. So the Chiefs going with a running back. I like Caleb.
I think that's the pick. It feels a little early to me.
Yeah, it's about where I would see
to me, if you're taking a running back and Quinshawn Judson's still available, how do you justify taking a guy who's going to test a little less explosively, a little less, or even Scatterbo, right? Who I think is a little more versatile and has that elite, once again, at least one elite character, one elite trait, and that's ridiculous contact balance, right? I mean, you can hit this guy in the forehead with a sledgehammer, and then he's going to somehow not go down and get you 4 more yards.
Well, Judkins like short yardage too is his. I think Caleb Johnson can do a little bit of everything, though. He's got better speed.
Once again, it just feels like a round too early. I'm not saying I don't like the player. I'm just saying it feels like a round too early to me.
Yeah. I'll disagree on that one. This may be one of the only times to disagree. I like Caleb Johnson. He had a phenomenal season and got hurt last year, so his tape wasn't as great last year because he was injured most of it. He only played a few games, I think.
I like his vision. I like his burst to the hole. He doesn't really have that second gear you love.
He doesn't have the second gear, but he's got enough, I think.
I'm agreeing he has enough.
He's a good size, too.
Yes. That's one of the things I do like about it, right? I do like that. It just feels like in a deep running back group. And it's a deep – if this was a thinner running back class, I wouldn't have anything to say. This is a deep running back class.
That's the whole argument of how high do you take an Ashton Genty even because of how deep this class is.
It's a deep group.
It's tough because, do you want the elite guy or do you want the really great guy that might become elite because it's such a
because it's a good situation or you improved your offensive line. Like I said, I like the player. In this running back group, I feel like you could get a player who's as good or better or just the same a whole round later, even if you don't get him. But let's keep going.
No, I agree with that.
I didn't mean to bog us down.
No, you didn't. Braden Swenson. See, this may be a round high for me, but I see the vision. One thing was
people like mystery boxes, Dale. That's what I'm realizing.
I don't. So he had 8.5 sacks, but 7 of them was in 3 games.
Right.
So
exactly.
You know what I mean?
And not against elite level players in those 3 games.
That's the tough part for me when you really dive into it. But he goes to the Eagles, so I assume he'll be phenomenal. In this exercise, he goes to the Eagles at the end of the second round, and the Eagles just go, yeah, we got a plan, and we're the Eagles, and we rotate our guys, and this guy will get us 10 sacks and a Super Bowl here
He'll play 37% of the snaps and get 10 sacks.
Yeah, that's it. That's what they do.
Oh, man.
You got anything on Swenson before we move on to the third?
Now, this is an interesting pick, right?
Yeah.
That's another guy where you're banking on. I mean, he looks the part, man. Woo.
Yeah.
Ooh. You stand next to this young man.
280. Yeah.
Oh. Right. I mean, if you get him and Shamar Stewart, and just put those guys
first off the bus. Those
guys get off the bus. Because I mean, you're looking at these 2 guys like. Once again, it looks like when you say God designed me a defensive lineman, it's like, oh, yes, here you go, my son. The
Bengals are going to love these guys.
The only problem is when you look at him against the best of the guys he faced, he struggles against the better guys.
Yeah, but Alabama last year when he had 3 sacks. Come on, Bill. Everyone holds on to that one game. And they say this guy could be the one. We could take him in the first round because of that one game.
He did have, but that's how you get Ezekiel Ansah, right? That's how you end up taking Ezekiel Ansah. He has one incredible game, and you're like, yes, he's a stud. One game sample sizes are not really what you want to probably stake your draft on, people. But I agree, that was one fantastic game. As
it was great.
He is a developmental, fun prospect. And if you really have great coaching, you could develop him into something. But this feels, once again, a little early for this kind of player.
I mean, we're now, we're in the 3rd round. That was the first pick of the 3rd. I think that's a better spot for him.
It's a better spot than earlier, yeah.
Yeah, because there was people saying he was a first-round guy.
Oh, no. Time out.
There what? No, I promise you, there was a lot of people telling me this was a first-round guy.
I'm just saying that's crazy talk. But
I agree. I said, hell no, but people weren't listening.
He is a really good football player. Yeah. I think he's a rotational guy at the next level, a productive rotational guy. But I think he's a rotational guy at the next level.
Sam Hubbard. Sam Hubbard. Everyone's Sam Hubbard.
A stouter, not bigger, stronger, but yeah, right, similar, but bigger, stronger. Sam Hubbard, who with a beggar meal plan.
Yeah. Jim, can you scroll back up? Isaiah Bond. Yeah.
Now
so
this
not
is
a great season, but speed for days and coming off the combine. His stock's about to go.
Right, exactly. Right. He's like NVIDIA stock buy now. But things you like about him, fast. Things you don't like about him, doesn't seem to really understand how to play wide receiver sometimes. So
inconsistent, doesn't always catch the ball. That's kind of important.
That's a bit. Doesn't always catch the ball, doesn't always seem to understand. You should sometimes you need to slow down because you're about to run back into the coverage. Like things like that. I'm not wild about the fact that he doesn't seem to sense zone sometimes. Like, oh, if I stop running, I'll stay up. Oh, no, I want to keep running. Okay, now I'm covered again. Like, I want him to work on some of that stuff. His footwork isn't the best. He could be way
I thought he should have went back to school for a year like Evan Stewart did at Oregon.
That would have been cool.
That's what I was hoping.
But here he is. He's a prospect. But as you said, where he's being picked, it's hard to criticize it too much. And it is a situation where they seem to know how to develop sort of raw guys. So he could turn into something. But, man, he could have been more productive if he just did some things better. Like you said, catch the football or not run back into coverage.
Yeah. No, I agree. Jim, can you scroll back up? I think there was only there's 2. So Marcus Embo from Purdue.
Yep.
And you have him listed as a center on this one. He played tackle at Purdue. I think I have him listed in guard rankings, but maybe he is a center. I don't think he had a great Senior Bowl week going to the Browns here. Either way, they could use any of those positions on the line because their line
the good
took a huge step back.
Right. Whatever position he is, they could use him. You're right.
Yeah.
Things you like about him. He's another tough guy. He's powerful lower body. Not super athletic. Can occasionally get fooled by like twists and stunts and stuff like that. And he's better inside than outside, probably at least in part because he doesn't have great athletic, pure athletic traits. But he's a tough guy and he's a smart guy who will learn and he'll get better. Then next we have
Emory Jones was next. Went to the Raiders. And
okay.
Tackle. I think slides in and plays guard and plays it at a great level because his PFF grades, at least at tackle this year, were not great. And along with that is the tape, which PFF watches, and that's how they make their grade.
Right. Things you like about him: mean, tough and mean. Especially if you want to run the football. If you want to throw the football, I don't like him quite as much. But boy, does he like to run block, and he's good at it. Once he gets going downhill and gets on you're gonna get got. He's gonna put some people on their backs, and he likes that. He likes putting people on their backs, but he can also sometimes put them on his back. If you ask him to pass protect against elite level pass rushers, his footwork as a pass protector is sometimes not the best. He's not, once again, a guy who's not great at changing direction if somebody counters back, or he gets lost a little bit sometimes on those twists and stunts and loops. But as a run blocker,
he's a guard.
I'm agreeing with you. He has a nice little mean streak. Like he wants to move people and slap them around.
Yeah, I think he'd be a lot better. I honestly, after seeing these guys at the Senior Bowl, even, and I'm a big Miles Frazier fan coming into the Senior Bowl. I'm like, maybe Frazier should have been playing right tackle, and Emory Jones should have been playing one of the guard spots with Dellinger. I don't know, just a thought. Princely Umamielen to the Patriots. Good pick, man. Surprised he lasted this long. I know there's also character concerns.
There's some character stuff.
Florida, 4 years at Florida, this year at Ole Miss, 10.5 sacks at Ole Miss this year.
Yep.
I like him. I like his tape a lot.
His tape's good.
You wonder about the effort, the consistency, the this, that, and the other, but there's a lot to like with him. You get him in the third round, I think.
Right. Tremendous length.
Like that.
I think he has potential to put on 12 to 18 pounds without losing anything.
And he already came in at what, like 255, and people thought he'd be lighter at the Senior Bowl. So that was a good weight.
He could carry 272 easily. I mean, when you see him up close, you see how wide and long, and he's got a very broad frame with a lot of growth potential on it. And I mean, I don't want to go too deep into what I've heard about him as a person. It's not, once again, it's not, he's not an axe murderer or something. But yeah, there's some stuff that you want to check out there. But it's not super, super worrisome. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, this guy could be out of the league in a couple of years because of it kind of stuff. But yeah, would you like to see him get a little bit stronger? I think he is going to get a little bit stronger. And could he be more efficient, even more efficient, use the way he uses his hands and stuff like that? Yes. But if he does get that stuff down, you're talking about a guy who's consistently going to be around that 7 to 9 sack range for 4 or 5, 6 years, maybe.
Yeah. Neil, take that. Andrew Makuba from Texas to the Jaguars at safety. I mean, I like him. Yep. He's a good player.
Yep.
And we had 3 safeties go in the first round in this exercise. So getting this guy in the third when three safeties go in the first round seems like a win to me.
It's a big win. I won't be shocked if he ends up being the second best safety in the class. It won't shock me one bit if he ends up being the second best safety in this class. There's a lot to like with him. He can come downhill in the run game. He's a guy that has enough going on between the ears. They can be the organizer guy for the secondary. He could conceivably play in the slot if you really wanted him to. He's not his best usage, but he can do it a little bit. He can do a little bit of everything. And, especially if you're one of those teams that runs, a split safety kind of coverage, cover 2, cover 4. He's probably best used in that situation. But he can cover, he can play man a little bit as well. I've seen him do it. Didn't look bad doing it. Scroll up just a tiny bit.
It's Ozzie Trapillo.
There it is. I knew it was
Trapillo, however you pronounce it. My bad. Boston College offensive tackle. Big dude. He's like 6'8".
High effort.
Yeah.
Third
round is about where I think
he should go. Right. Not super athletic. He's going to struggle with elite level guys, and as he did in college, and he'll struggle. He'll struggle with them at the next level because he's just not super athletic. But could he play right tackle in the NFL? Yes, he could play right tackle in the NFL. And we'll see what they end up doing with him, but I think he's probably a right tackle. And finally, Quinshon Judkins is off the table, off the board. I think he's going to end up being in that, top 5, top 6 running backs in this draft class, somewhere in that range. He can catch the ball, not Marshall Faulk, but he can catch the ball pretty well. And like I said, he holds up pretty well in blitz pickup. Not elite, but he holds up pretty well. Can run between the tackles, has enough of a second gear that I've seen him turn the corner and people don't run him down. I mean, quarters or things like that can run him down, but I don't see linebackers and things like that running him down. Sometimes even safeties have trouble unless they have a good angle on him running him down. I think the market on him in terms of the 40 is probably low 4.5s, 4.52, probably somewhere in there, which for his size is just fine. And like I say, I think he can be perhaps even an all 3 down back. Trey Amos is a guy that, once again, has that good height, weight, speed. He's going to test fairly well. Sometimes on tape, didn't always show you the best technique. Another guy that probably needs to work on a few things, but showed he can go above the rim, as people say nowadays. So he can run a little bit also, and I think he's going to test pretty well. So I think he can cover, right? So he can do some of the things. And like I say, it's not bad in coverage. He's got a little bit of everything, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then next we've got Jordan Birch. He's the other guy, right? So if you already have your TJ Watt, if you already have your Trey Hendrickson, if you already have whoever your number one pass rusher is, he's a good number 2. He's the guy that goes on the other side and plays that base end, as some people call it. I see that I think it's a good spot for him. They've got Jared Wilson. He could conceivably even go a little bit earlier, but this feels about good for where he should go. I think he's maybe not a day one starter, but he's a guy that will be a starter sooner rather than later. So maybe he fills in a little bit at center and guard while he sort of learns the NFL game, and then maybe next year he's your.
Was this a guy you thought would go back to school? Because I did. 1 year starter because Cedric Van Pran was there for 33 years.
Right. I feel like he could have gone earlier next year.
Yeah.
I feel like he would have gone earlier next year. Yeah.
It's kind of a weak center class. Like, I think Gray Zabel and then him. Like, I think he's second on that list. So
maybe that's why he came out this year.
And Gray Zabel hadn't really shown anything at the Senior Bowl yet. Like, he could have been center 1 this year before Gray Zabel showed out.
Right. So maybe that's why he came out this year. But I agree, he could have gone earlier if he stays in. And now we're caught up. From looks of it. Okay, cool.
You did it, man. I leave for a couple minutes. Boom. You rattle off like 4 things. Jordan Birch went last, though. I'll go back to that one while we're waiting on the Cowboys pick.
Yep.
There's a lot to like with him, but he's an older guy. South Carolina before he transferred to Oregon.
Yep.
Great season. Also injured part of this year. I think he could have had 10 sacks if he didn't get injured for part of the season.
Just a couple games, yeah. I said he's a really good the other guy, right? He's not your TJ Watt. He's your Alex Highsmith. He's the other one, which is still good. Like,
you will take that all day.
Right. He's just the other one. He's if you have your main guy and now you throw him on the other side, now you're creating problems for the other team because you can't slide, the protection away from, or you can, but you do it at your own risk.
I want to see his official measurements because he's listed at like 6'6", 290, and you're like, if this guy's 290, man, you could play him at D tackle. He could be a 3 tech. He could do. He doesn't look. I'll be shocked if
he's that heavy. I think he's going to come in at 277, which is not still big, but he's coming in the upper 270s. Going to come in at 6'5 1/4", which is still fine.
Yeah, no, it's perfect edge measurements. It's just like I think we're at South Carolina. They were trying to play him maybe at D tackle. So they listed him bigger, and then they just kept listing him bigger at Oregon. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing because he doesn't look that on tape.
No, and I don't think he is. I think he's, like I said, probably 6'5 1/4, 6'5 3/8. And like I said, 277, 278, which is that's big. It's still big.
Speaking of South Carolina, so we got Kyle Kennard coming
on
the board here to the Dallas Cowboys. Good player. Had a good season. Transferred from Georgia Tech, I believe, to South Carolina this year, and had what do you have? 8.5, 9 sacks, something like that.
Yeah, and he was once again. He's not just a pass defender. I mean, he's a guy who can do a little bit of everything. He's good against the run too.
He's a little undersized though, right?
Right. I mean, I was going to say, but we talked about this. Like, he's not underpowered though, right? His size, he's strong. He's a strong guy for his size. So that's a player I feel like, you can use him as a designated pass rusher at times. You can, you can have him play with his hand in the dirt. You can stand him up. There's some things you can do with him.
If he comes in and he weighs in at 255 and test well, he ain't making it to the third, I don't think.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. Like, how does he test, and how big is he really? If those two things come together, if he's 256, 257, 258, and then runs, 4.61, then yeah, there's no way he probably makes it.
Because he's explosive. He showed it. He put it on tape.
Yeah.
So he has a chance to go a lot higher than this. So that's a good pick there in the third round.
Yep.
Anthony Belton, big boy from NC State, goes next. And I like this for the guy picking for the Patriots because you've invested in the O-line and you go back and go to the O-line again. And it's a big boy.
Yep.
And I think he's going to stick at tackle.
Yes.
But if you needed to kick him in at guard, I think he'd do well with that too.
Yeah. He's a classic right tackle with a bit of a mean streak. He's got some classic right tackle behaviors.
Yeah.
He's tough, aggressive, can sometimes get too far over his skis, go a little overextended.
Made a good decision to go back to school for a year because I had him as a guy third, fourth round last year.
Yep.
But I think he improved this year going back.
In all areas. He improved. His footwork got better. He was in better condition. His hands particularly got better. The placement and the power in his hands. Basically everything. He got better at basically everything. And he went from being a guy who was sort of like a project player to now a guy I could see being a swing tackle, perhaps even out of the box, and a starter pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree. And then Antoine Powell-Ryland. Not the defensive lineman I would have taken from Virginia Tech here because I'm an Aeneas Peebles stan.
Yeah.
But I do like Antoine Powell-Ryland, hugely productive at Virginia Tech at edge. Once again, maybe the undersized, we'll see how he weighs in.
Well, both he and
Aeneas,
suffer from that a little bit. They're both undersized, but both guys on tape show you so much motor and desire. And Ryland is a pretty polished player.
Yes.
There's not like you have to build him, right? He's
got a bag. He's got a bag.
Right. He's got an idea of what he wants to do as a pass rusher. He's got a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and even a plan D if he needs it. So I like that about him. I think worst case scenario, he's a, rotational designated pass rusher. That's the worst case scenario. I could see him in the right situation being like almost like a Trent Graham, Darryl Tapp type.
Yeah, I think the next pick was Mason Taylor. I can't remember if it was Washington. I think it might have been, but I could be wrong on that.
It was, yes.
Okay, so Washington, it was Mason Taylor. And honestly, in a world where Elijah Arroyo goes 32, which is this mock draft, you get Mason Taylor here in the third round.
That's amazing value. Amazing value. Because you're getting a guy who is, well, first of all, healthier, bigger, stronger, and probably about as fast. Mason Taylor's going to test well, people.
Yes.
I've come by here to tell you, if you didn't hear it from somebody else, you heard it from me. He's going to test well. He's
going to test better than he plays. That's one of the things in the Project Game Day draft guide. You can get one for $5.
He's going to test well.
Hey, Dale, if you want to give yourself a commercial, go right ahead.
No.
It's completely okay.
It's all for charity. It's for charity.
Day,
I'm not as good as Bill. You be on here with Bill, you're like, shit, Bill, geez. Bill's got to have a draft guide. Pay actual money for that. I just ask for donation.
The good news about Taylor is he can play real tight end. So if you want to be traditional and line your tight end up at a classic line wide and say go block people, he can do that. LSU,
not the best blocker. He is not the best blocker.
No. None of them are. None of them are. This is not a great group of blockers. Even Warren and Loveland's above average, are not killers.
Warren's above average.
Warren's above average. Loveland's good, but they're not killers. They're not putting guys in the dirt. I mean, they're good. They're good, solid, but they're not. I mean, maybe it's because I'm older and I remember when guys really blocked at the tight end position, but they're good. They're solid. They're above average.
Another tight end off the board too. Gunnar Helm next.
Well, this is about probably where he should go too, but unless of course he has a true freak show performance at the combine, he might go a little bit earlier. But things you like about Taylor, like I said, he's the bloodlines thing, size. He's still going to probably put a little bit more weight. He's a positional blocker. He gets in the way. He's not. His feet go a little deader than you'd like sometimes on contact. I'd like him to be more. For his size, he doesn't play quite as big as you'd like, even in the passing game. Like, he should be going over guys' heads more often than he does. Maybe it's what I don't know if they just don't like to do that at LSU for some reason, but I'd love to see him just catch more balls over dudes. That's the other thing I made a note.
Right, the Reds, even in the red zone, he doesn't do as much.
That's what I'm saying. Like, where's that's what I kept saying. Like, why 3 or 4 times a game? Why aren't you just throwing the ball up and saying jump up and go over somebody?
Yeah, on tight ends, Gunnar Helm and then Harold Fannin. So
the run on tight ends is on.
Anything Gunnar Helm with the Colts pick for Gunnar Helm. And the Colts, that's a team that I've mocked the tight end to for 3 years. So they get Gunnar Helm here in the 3rd round.
The only problem is I don't think Gunnar's going to have a high enough RAS score to go to them there. But yes, whoever is the highest RAS rated tight end available at this point is probably the guy they're going to get. If you study the Colts draft, shout out to my friend Kent Lee Platt, who is the
math bomb, baby.
Yes, math bomb, who invented RAS. The Colts clearly, they may not admit it publicly, but they clearly watch RAS scores. Just look at their roster sometime and look at RAS scores and tell me they don't study RAS scores. I think Gunnar Helm's not going to test quite well enough or be long enough to end up a Colt. But I do think the Colts in this tight end class find a guy. And it wouldn't be shocked if it were Mason Taylor, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm. And earlier in the 3rd round, too. They could probably take Taylor in the 2nd.
Right.
The Bengals here, they take Harold Fannin. So I know Ryan Sparks is very happy in the chat. The Harold Fannin is the pick for the Bengals.
How are you feeling, Dale? Ludicrous production, a little smaller than ideal.
I feel good in the 3rd round, see.
Okay.
Like, that's the thing. Now, had we taken him at 49, I'd be like, maybe a little early. But you get him in the 3rd, I think that's a good spot.
I'm with you on that. This is about where he should go. Now, if he runs 4.49 at the combine, then all bets are off. But assuming he doesn't have like some freak show type combined performance, if he's solid, this is probably where he goes. If he has a terrible combine, he's going to go later. But yeah, when you're undersized tight end, you've got to test well because you're not going to hold up in certain parts of the position. You've got to show that you can just run away from people a little bit.
Yeah, and his blocking was much improved this year.
Yes.
But he's still undersized. That's just not who he is, you know? So that's not why you're drafting him. This is where I'd take this guy, too. Deion Walker from Kentucky. I mean, I was thinking top 10, top 15. He goes to the Seahawks here at pick 82.
This is more like it. I get why people fall in love, but he's got to play lower. He's got to get in better shape.
Pad level sucks.
His pad level is excruciating to watch, and his conditioning is – I'm trying not to be unduly mean.
He played a lot of snaps. To be fair to him,
which was not good for him, right? He should have played probably 100 fewer snaps, and he would have actually been more productive.
Well, I'll say this, not to be mean, but to be honest. He plays like an edge in a nose tackle's body.
Yes, right. Right. I think when he falls asleep at night, he sees himself as Myles Garrett.
Yeah. I just think that's who he wants to be, and that's what he thinks he is. But it's like, man, I need you to be nasty and play inside. And so I think he
wanting to be Vince Wilfork, and it shows.
No, had he done that, he would be.
He'd be really good.
Top 15 player.
I still need him to get in a little better shape. I agree he played too many snaps. And he'll probably be asked to play fewer snaps to the next level. But I'd still like to see him in.
No, I agree. I agree with you. Because it's like, it's the durability. Like, yeah, you can say, okay, well, it's good that you played this many snaps, but it's also bad because at your size, playing that many snaps, it's also gonna your career is probably gonna be shortened.
But beyond that, his productivity, like I'd like to see a breakdown on what downs on which he made most of. I'm willing to bet it was first and second. Like the longer or
he's
early in a
field.
drive.
Yeah, the more
right?
amount of time he's on the field.
The productivity goes down and down and down. And you see smaller dudes handling him once he gets tired. Like that I didn't like. Guys way smaller than him with no help handling him. Like straight up handling him because he gets, he just starts playing higher. He loses all the power. So yeah, fewer snaps, better condition. And then I would
you can't like make a guy be nasty. You can't make a guy have that part of them on the interior D line, which is where he's going to play in the NFL, no matter if he wants to be an edge. You can't make a guy do that. Right. So the fact that he don't have that is very
concerning.
Huge red flag concerning whatever you want to put on it.
Yeah.
And it scares me. And the next pick was the Steelers, Damian Martinez. I'm the big Damian Martinez guy. So in the third, and for the Steelers, it's a Steelers pick.
It's
right?
a Steelers-ish pick. Could he go a round or even a round and a half later? Of course. Yes. But this is exactly the kind of thing the Steelers would do. And I mean, at least it isn't taking Najee Harris in the first. I feel
they've been investing in offensive line too, Zach Frazier and guys like that.
Yep.
So it's like, hey, we still want to run the ball, and this he's going to be hungry to show something. So I think it's not a bad pick there.
I don't hate the pick.
Yeah, I got him a round later, but on my board. But I think the pick and the fit makes this pick.
It makes sense. And I want to see how he tests, obviously, but he's one of the bigger backs in this class. He catches the ball a little bit. He's a between the tackles guy. And yeah, he doesn't have, great acceleration, or he's not super, super elusive, but he's a downhill runner, and he's going to give you that classic, hey, do you want 4.1 yards? Here it is.
Yeah, you need 2 yards on 3rd and 2. I'll get you 2.
Okay, we're waiting on the next pick. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that this pick is for the Bucs. Like if somebody just puts that in the chat, I'm obviously trying to keep track of 32 different people. So
yeah,
a shout out to everybody watching and participating. This is really cool, everybody.
It is.
Yeah, and we've almost got 3 rounds in. We're getting close to.
Yeah. So Cameron, can you confirm that you're the Bucs GM, or you're telling me to pick for the Bucs?
Can the rest of the chat confirm he's not a liar? Are you lying?
I mean, I like the pick.
While we're working on that, I'm going to, since people are doing shameless plugs, I'll shameless plug the 11th annual Mock Draft-A-Palooza that I have had the great pleasure of hosting now for 11 straight years, which I think is probably the oldest live, interactive 7-round mock. If there's somebody who's doing it longer than 11 years, then correct me and I'll then stop saying this. But we do 7 rounds of live mock drafting over a 3-day period, the week before the real draft, and with I would say fabulous prizes, but they're not fabulous. They'll be less than $30 Sprint probably. So enjoy your gift card or whatever it is if you're one of the winners. But yes, there are prizes and pride to be had by the winners.
We have pride at the end of the day.
We have a blue ribbon panel that'll be judging it, and it'll be fun.
Hey, so
that's a great question.
This is a really good friend of mine out in the DC area. So Elliot, thanks for stopping by.
I'm going to attempt to answer that question. The answer is a definite maybe. So here's what
definite maybe.
Here's what I like about your question. You know that McDonald is a guy who does see what players can do, not just what they can't do, right? We know that he's capable of getting certain things out of players. Can he tell him to get into better shape? Can he tell him to get nastier? Well, the first one.
Can he force him to get his pad level down play by play?
Right. So I feel better about the first thing than the next 2 things. I think that he can get in better shape. I think that he can try to tell him that being more aggressive and playing lower will help him to have a career where he'll make way more money. And maybe that will motivate him. Nobody likes defensive tackles, which is what he's going to be, who stand up. There's no place where they say, yes, that's what we like. Please play higher. You'll never going to hear that ever said any place. No one says that's what we want. So if he wants to be a successful player, a guy who gets a second contract, which is where the money really is, then he's going to have to work on pad level, and then conditioning, like together, those two things. He's going to have so that was asked. People said, what are you doing to work on that? He said bear crawls. So I guess if there's a company that sponsors people for bear crawling, reach out to Mr. Walker. There's an NIL opportunity or whatever there for him, but that's what he's doing apparently to work on it. He's doing bear crawls, but it's a big question mark just because of that. If he doesn't learn to play lower, no matter whose scheme it is, no matter what genius it is that's coaching him, it just won't be great. I'm sorry, that's how it works. Those are the rules.
And I might be irrationally high on the next guy that just got drafted, but he went in the third round. Xavier Restrepo from Miami, Florida.
Yes.
I think he's a second round type guy. If you liked the kid from Georgia last year, McConkey,
he's a little smaller and not quite as fast, like straight line fast as McConkey.
But one went in the first, and a guy here in the third, it'd be a great pick in the third. But I would take him in the second. I think he knows how to run routes. I think he knows how to get open. I think he knows how to be a weapon for his quarterback.
Yes.
And off script, he's going to get open for you.
Yep.
And you can't underestimate that. And I think he's going to be a good player in the NFL. So the Buccaneers get Restrepo to replace, because they're losing. Who's the guy they're losing, Bill?
We're talking about
the Buccaneers.
Oh, well, they might be losing Chris Godwin. It's not definite, but they might be losing Chris Godwin.
Yeah. If they lose Godwin, they replace him with Restrepo and keep things. Well, they got McMillan though, who's their slot.
That's the only problem is that
McMillan's more of a slot than an outside.
Right, McMillan's more, and he's a longer version who's almost who's probably a faster and almost.
All right, never mind. I don't like the pick for the Buccaneers because you should have at least taken an outside receiver.
Right,
because you already
or
got
at least a
slot
slightly
guy.
bigger version of.
Yeah.
Okay, so things you like about Restrepo. He is a route technician, as people like to say. He really does run routes at a super high level. He's going to test okay, but he's not going to test as well as McConkey, and he's a little undersized. But no, let me rephrase that. He's a little under tall. He's not undersized. He's got the lower body of a centaur. He really is like a little mini stallion from the waist down. Powerful lower body. He can break tackles. He can help you in the return game. He can return punts and maybe even kickoffs, but probably better punt returner. And, people love to compare him to guys like Wes Welker and, all the usual suspects amongst the squatty-bodied slot receivers. He gets compared to all of them. Barrios, what's his name with the Patriots? All those guys. All the Patriots slot receivers.
Well, Barrios probably the most apt because you can also say Miami, right?
Right. Miami. Spanish speaking also. Yes. The bilingual flavor.
He's Braxton Berrios, but don't hold that against him, though.
There's nothing wrong with that, frankly. And he's more powerful in the lower body. Like he can break tackles. He's a powerful dude. And this is where he probably should go. I mean, I'm second isn't crazy, but I think he's a 2/3. Depending upon what you've already got at the receiver position.
He's a slot. He's a slot.
He's a slot, and he's a 2/.
He's exclusively a slot.
If he goes to a team like the Buccaneers, he's a 3/4. But if he goes to the Patriots, he's a 2.
Yeah, exactly.
So it depends on where he goes.
Yeah, I agree. What? I can't remember who was next, Jim.
We've got.
Kevin Winston Jr. Yeah. Had he stayed healthy, had the safety pick for the Broncos here, had he stayed healthy this year, I mean, he was a fringe first round guy. We'd be talking about him
50 pick all day long. If he's a top 50 pick all day long if he's healthy.
Coming into this season, it was Watts, Starks, and him.
Yep.
And not necessarily in that order.
Right. Some people had him solidly as their number 2. Some people had him solidly as their number 2 safety. Things you like about him: scheme, versatility, right? If you're a man-heavy team, he can be your guy. If you're a zone-heavy team, he can be your guy. Can he come down and beat that hybrid guy a little bit? Yes, he's tough enough and strong enough that he can come down and play near the line of scrimmage. Can he cover slots? Yes. Can he cover tight ends? Yes. Can he cover running backs? Yes. Can he be a weapon in the run game? Yes. Assuming that there's nothing scary on his medical report in terms of the injuries, no sign of healed normally. There's no sign of anything that's degenerative or nerve damage or stuff like that. He's a steal where he went.
I wonder if he'll be at the combine because his injury was like week 3. So if he's at the combine and he's healthy and capable of testing, he could well jump this pick.
That's what I'm saying. Yep.
Hey, so can I interrupt you guys for a second? So everybody in the chat, we've got about 10 picks to go. Who are your best available in the chat? And then Bill Carroll, who are you right now surprised that they haven't been taken?
I'm a little surprised that Cam Scatterbo. I mean, this is probably somewhere around here where he goes, but I'm a little surprised he's still there. I'm amongst the pass rushers. There's a couple of pass rushers I thought might come off the board around, and maybe they will around here that are still a little surprisingly available. It's such a deep D tackle class. I can see someone saying, "Oh, I'll wait," but there's some good D tackles, including my friend Dale's favorite, or one of his favorites, Aeneas Peoples. That's a guy that I feel like could go around here. There's a couple of corners. This is probably about right for most of the corners. There's a couple of corners still on.
Well, I seen Jalen Milroe still on the board, and it's the quarterback tech. I understand if you're just evaluating his tape, but
if you're just evaluating him playing football, then yes,
I know, but you cannot tell me that teams aren't going to say his mobility, his ability to run, what we could turn him into, and they get this giant boner for a guy that they think can be half of Lamar Jackson.
I mean, he in no way vaguely resembles Lamar Jackson. I think best case scenario, you're talking about like Ty Huntley, but faster. Lamar Jackson, that's an insult to everything. If you're talking about Lamar, like there's except for being black and playing quarterback.
I said half of what, if someone takes him, they'd be thinking, can I make him half of Lamar Jackson?
Well,
which would be a Pro Bowler in this day and age, and easily a pro. Hell, Tyler Huntley was a Pro Bowler.
Oh, well, okay.
And Rick Meyer won Rookie of the Year. Never forget that Rick Meyer won Rookie of the Year. I'm just saying also that no, he's not going to be that, is what I'm saying. Like, he's not going to be I don't dislike the player or the person. I leave it that way. I don't dislike the person. I think he's a great person. He's a great young man. He's smart and tough and hardworking.
Man, you hate Jalen Milroe. Hate him.
I like him as a human being. And
whoever
gets him, he's going to work. He's going to improve even. But it's just too far to go. It's too much ground to make up. Right. Thank you, Brock. That's one of the players I'm shocked is still available. And that's another guy who has some nagging injuries. I get that.
We're in the third round. You wouldn't take a flyer on a Jalen Milroe?
No, not in the third.
Think of some of the quarterbacks who have gone in the third round.
That doesn't make it okay. You know what I mean? Remember how your mother used to say,
a lot of those quarterbacks that have gone in the third round.
It doesn't mean it's supposed to happen. Like, I'm not going to excuse bad behavior because it's been done before. That's not a justification to me.
You should have stood on the table for all those picks, all those other quarterbacks in this class.
There's just no reason. He's a developmental player. If you take him late in the third, I'm not going to lose my mind. But there's better players available, is what I'm pointing out.
I won't be shocked if he goes in the end of the first still.
That's horrific. I'm not saying
it should happen. I'm saying I won't be shocked.
I won't be shocked, but it doesn't make it okay. It's still an awful thing to do to yourself as a franchise. I mean, there's so many things. The problem is that there's not one thing to fix, right? If he were a guy that the only thing to fix was he overstrides, or the only thing to fix is his eyes are slow, or the only thing to fix is he doesn't understand touch, or if the only thing you had to fix was, he
is a one-read quarterback.
Right. I mean, it has is inconsistent in like the length of his drops, or like it's everything. Like every single thing needs to be fixed. Like I don't like when you have to fix everything, right? If a guy has one or two things, even I can kind of see it. When it's everything that has to be fixed, once again, I wish whoever it is luck. He's a good young man. He's a fantastic person. He's going to work super hard. He's going to do everything he can to improve. He's going to take the coaching you give him and really try to improve. He really will. I just don't think he can get there. That's all I'm saying.
What pick are we at?
Oh, yes. Let's go back and look at the players.
No,
there's some good players coming up.
We're at pick 92. We'll get to the players. We're at pick 92. Guarantee Jalen Milroe is well off the board before pick 92.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that the person who does it is wrong. Right. And let's take a look. So
I think we're up one more.
Bill, I can make the text bigger. You want me to zoom in more for you?
No, I can. Jim, can you go up?
Just scroll up a little.
Did
you get Winston? You got Restrepo.
Yeah.
Did you get Winston?
So Quincy Riley is one of my favorites also. And he had a great Senior Bowl week. I thought he was the best corner in Mobile. Really quick. Some people think he's a slot corner. He can do that, but he can play outside.
Skill set is outside corner, but
yeah, I think he can do both. But I really, really liked him. I'm about 40 picks, but I agree. Knight should come off the board. 40 picks might be more. But Quincy Riley is quick. He was a state of South Carolina 200-meter champion as a sprinter, so he has real speed. Even though he's not the biggest cat in the world, he's not weak. Like you see him go against bigger receivers, and when they try to bully him, he's not being bullied. And he can tackle. He's not a, blow you up tackler, but he's a good tackler. And once again, a guy that showed he can play both zone and man. He's going to play zone. He understands it. He has the mental capacity to do that. And he can play man. The only thing you don't love is his age. He's going to be 24, or he might have turned 24 already. I have to go back and check, but I think he's about 24. You don't love that. But everything else, some people want to be 6 feet tall, I guess, too. But other than not being 6 feet tall and not being 21, he's got everything else you're looking for.
Well, Braden Fisk, right, was 24. And it's early second round. That turned out just fine.
Yeah, you could say that again. And
David Walker next to the Packers. Such a Packers pick.
Such a Packers pick.
That Bowling Green guy I loved, Carl Brooks, a couple of years ago.
Yep.
I was like, man, why are people sleeping on this guy?
Once again, ultra productive, man. And I saw him chase down screenplays from behind, from the tackle spot. Like that kid was a maximum effort player and a better athlete than people seem to realize.
Yeah, he's like he reminds like Darius Alexander. And he went in the 4th round, and he should have went a lot higher. He could have been a second, early 3rd round type of guy, which 100%. Is what Darius Alexander should be. And then next is Charles Grant. I want to see how he tests. It sucks he wasn't at the Senior Bowl.
Yep.
But he's supposed to some of the testing numbers are supposed to be insane for this guy. I think maybe he kicks into guard, but I heard he has 35-inch arms. So maybe he can stay at tackle if he's an elite athlete.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know. Just small school William & Mary guy. I don't know what to think about Charles Grant.
Well, here's the good news. We've seen him play against ACC teams, right? I mean, I've watched him play up, as they say, in competition. He handled those guys just fine. So the Senior Bowl would have been great for him, I agree. But I've got enough games on him playing up a level in competition. He did just fine in those games. Good. So there's a lot to like. He's a good football player. We'll see just how tall he actually is. That's a big question. Just how long he. I mean, if he has 35-inch arms, then
6'4", 301, and thinks what he's listed.
Yeah, so that's. I mean, you like to see him be a tiny bit bigger, but I think he can still play tackle.
Yeah, and if not, a guard, and if he's that athletic and that good, you're going to have a really good guard.
Yeah, there we go. Here we go. Peoples, your guy, our guy. So Aeneas Peoples, who is first of all, he's a great interview. If you get a chance to talk to him, do it. He's a talker. Powerful little. I shouldn't say little. I mean, he's little for a professional football player at that position, but he's a big person. He's just not a pretty big tackle, but he's got good power for his size, and he will haul. He will. I've seen him once again run down plays. He runs down plays. He gives you full effort. he got some pass rush to him too. He can pass rush a little bit too.
Oh, he can pass rush a lot. He's been one of PFF's true pass sets. Like the last 2 years, have been one of the highest guys on the board. Yep. And he doesn't suck at run defense either because and I think he's like 6'1", 290, somewhere around there.
6'1". He's close to 6 feet.
6 foot something.
Yes.
And 289. If we want to get specific.
Yes.
But
I like him. I'm not one of those people that wants to compare every undersized 3-tech, to the king of undersized 3-techs, Aaron Charles Donald. But
Aaron Donald only came along after a guy named Geno Atkins.
Right. And he's not quite that either. But he's a good player. He's a really good football player.
We're just giving him Geno Atkins and Aaron Donald comparisons.
He's not quite that.
Flip it, take it.
He's a really good football player.
And he has the talent and potential to maybe not be quite them, but if you can get 70 to 80% of them out of his career, that would be an elite career.
And he's gonna be in the league for 8 to 10 years, being 70, 80% of those kind of players. And he's gonna, like I said, he's gonna give you everything he's got. He's another guy that gives you max effort.
Yep, I agree. Jim,
that's a guy that probably goes earlier too. Good job, Prince Carter. Let's see. Oh yeah.
Is Vincent
so
next?
I got to know Carson Benson a little bit, and shout out to his family, Richard, his father, and the rest of his family. Once again, yes, Kay, yes, correct. Shocking to me, but yes. He is a terrific young man, developmental prospect. He has the body. He had a really good week of practice and then struggled in the game. Here's the things I like about him. He's going to work. Another guy with tremendous work ethic. He's going to get stronger. You can tell he hasn't been in a elite level strength and conditioning program. But once he gets into one, he's going to get even bigger and won't lose anything athletically. His frame tells you he could carry another 12, 15, 18 pounds, maybe even that, maybe even more without losing anything athletically. He bends fairly well. He redirects fairly well. There's things he just hasn't been asked to do yet. He was able to just flat out dominate most of the time at the level where he was. Once he gets into situations like the Senior Bowl, you saw him have some good reps, even against, guys who were top guys, and then sometimes, have some tougher ones. And then the game he got a little lost at times. I think things got sped up for him at times during the game, and he, sort of got verklempt, for lack of a way of putting it. But once he adjusts everything and the game slows down, he'll be fine. And,
I think it was Omar Norman Lott was next.
Yeah. That's another guy who had a really good Senior Bowl week.
Yeah, to the Ravens. Imagine that.
Oh, God. The Ravens striking.
Besides Peebles, Norman Lott is very high on my list of pass rush D tackles.
Yes.
And, Tennessee does a heavy rotation on their D-line, and he needs a lot of work when it comes to run defense. And his missed tackle rate was one of the highest in all of college football. So there is a lot. There's work to be done.
About that stuff, Dale. You could tell he doesn't really care about that stuff.
But as a pass rusher, there is so much there, and if you could get this kid dialed in to just realize his own potential as a player, I think it would be an absolute steal to get Omar Norman Lott at this point of the third round.
My only question is, just getting him interested in the run game. He really looks like a guy who is thinking pass rush all the time. And then,
always. Yeah.
Right. And then when it's a run, he's like, oh, yeah, I probably should try to get back.
I should try, at least try.
Right. That's what I got in my notes were like, oh, yeah, right. Probably should try to get back in my gap. Oh.
And then there's a couple times where he tries in some games that you're watching. It's like, wow, look what you just did, buddy. You want to pat him on the back and be like, why don't you do that more often?
Right. That was the thing. He showed you enough to make you realize he could do it, but you could tell it's not his thing. It's not his jam.
He doesn't want to do it.
He doesn't want to do it, but he can do it.
He's a pass rush specialist.
Where are we now? Oh, Devin Neal. No. There's something for that.
Demetrius Knight to the Jets.
Oh, we said. Somebody said he should have gone 40 picks earlier. That's probably a bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah,
but,
he's 91 on my board, and he went 92.
Right.
So you got him where he should go. And
Yeah.
he's an older guy, 6-year guy.
Yes.
Charlotte, somewhere else, I think, before Charlotte.
Correct.
Yeah. And then South Carolina for this year. A hugely productive season. Good player, great character, a guy that loves football.
Yep.
You want to have him, but he went where he should go, and I think it's a good, solid pick.
Right out of the box, he's going to help you in special teams. He's going to be part of your rotation.
At least goal line, short yardage, goal line.
Yeah, and it hurts him a little bit that, you only play with 2 linebackers on the field. He's probably a Sam backer, and you don't really use Sam backers a lot anymore. He can cover a little bit, but you could tell that's not what we just said about Mr. Lott. That's not his jam. That's not the thing he looks forward to. He's got some work to do when it comes to that stuff. He got flat out lost a couple of times.
He's a downhill thumper.
Yeah, Woody Marks abused him a couple of times in one-on-ones, and what's the other running back that I saw just abuse him a couple of times in one-on-ones? And once again, that's not really fair to the linebacker. It's not a great situation with him, but some of the guys looked like they had a better idea of what they're supposed to do in coverage than he did. He looked like he's flat out lost a couple of times in coverage.
Jack Kaiser, Notre Dame, to the Saints. I'm not this high on Jack Kaiser. Am I wrong? 6-year guy, weighs 227, 6'1". He's I get it. There's a lot to like. He's one of those hardworking guys. 90 tackles this year. Right. But he was not the full-time starter in 6 seasons till this year.
Correct.
2 guys got drafted last year, Bertrand and the guy that went to the Cowboys. I don't even want to.
Leafau. You know about Leafau?
Yeah.
So
here's his name up.
Yeah, here's my only issue with him. If you would like a less athletic Drew Tranquil, we got him for you. Here you go.
Yeah.
He's going to be a good player. Don't get me wrong. But
he's going to be a good special teams player. I don't know if he'll be a good linebacker.
I said great. I said good.
No, that's why I said I don't know if he'll be a good linebacker.
Well, here's what I'll say. Depending upon what you want from your linebacker, right? Here's what I think he is. And once again, it hurts him also that now you're usually playing just with 2 linebackers. He's not a guy that's ever going to be – he's an okay blitzer, but he's never going to be a great pass rusher, and he's only okay in coverage. He can cover a little bit, but he's not great at it. So when a guy's not a thumper and he's not great in coverage and he's an average athlete and he's a little smaller, then he's got to be a genius, basically, in terms of instincts and football intelligence to make up for all this stuff. Now, I talked to him a little bit at the Senior Bowl. He seems really bright. I wish I had gotten a chance to really quiz him football-wise, ask him about, structures and how they make adjustments and things like that. Didn't get the kind of time. But if he is a genius, he has a chance to hang around football-wise. He has a chance to hang around. He's just not special at anything. As you said, an older player who took a long time to break out. That you don't love that. And you don't love the fact that he's going to run 4.76 at about 227 pounds, and it's
none of this sounds like a 3rd-round guy to me, Bill.
He should have gone probably a round later. Yes, I'm agreeing with that. Maybe even 2, but
yeah,
he's going to be a dynamite special teams player who I think is a rotational linebacker who could be a starter in the right situation, but not blow your mind. Just a guy who starts. His ceiling is kind of AJ Klein-esque.
I mean, 2 picks later, Schwarzenegger goes from
UCLA. That's what hurts.
Who took a long time to get on the field also, but better special teams and just a better linebacker.
He's a better player. Yeah.
For me, it's not even close. It's like 3 rounds not close. I don't want to be mean to the person that made that pick, but wow. I would take it Schwarzenegger way earlier.
So the value of this exercise, it's a really good board check.
Yeah.
Right. We went through 3 rounds, but we're seeing. I definitely know that there is a portion of the draft community that has Kaiser in the top 50.
Oh wow!
Right. So
there's a portion of the draft community that's wrong.
But this is the entire value of this exercise, right? I like that you guys are pointing out that certain guys you're not as high on is where the different drafters took. And I mean, I know I probably podcast with about 50% of the chat, right? Where, they have boards, and some are fans that are drafting, some are people with boards that are drafting. So I'd be curious, where does the field have Kaiser on your board? Like, Owen, I see you. Have you done linebackers yet? Do you have a grade on Kaiser?
And while you're doing that, I want to at least spend a little time on Devin Neal. I think.
I like Devin Neal. Third round, honestly, at pick 94, I'm good with it.
I'm good with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So things you like about Devin Neal, he's got enough athletic ability that he can bounce some things out and occasionally even turn the corner-ish. Not running away from people, but he can get to the edge. And he's not a tackle breaker, but he's a guy that can lean into a tackler and get a little extra yardage, and has some elusiveness, has good vision, can catch the ball some, not, he needs to sort of see the ball out of the quarterback's hands though, but he can catch the ball. But he's not a guy who's going to like turn his back on the quarterback and like run down the field and catch the ball over his shoulder. Like, he's not, which Cam Skatebo can do, right? He's not able to do that kind of stuff, but he can catch the ball on swing routes, arrow routes, obviously screens, that kind of thing. He's a 3-back rotation guy who is your Jeff Wilson, your if you want to go back in the older days, right? The old Earth, Wind, and Fire backfield. He's your not Gardner. What was his name? The one that wasn't what was his name again? It'll come back to me. But he's in that 3-back rotation. He's the medium-sized, tough-ish back of the three in that 3-back rotation. He's going to fall forward. He can pick up blitzes okay, though it's not what he majors in. He's not special in terms of speed, but he has good instincts, a good running back instincts. He can be patient. He can feel for where the hole is. If it opens up right away, he's there in time to get to it. If it takes a while, he can hunt and peck and then find it. Has good, like I said, has really good vision. Vision might be one of the best things about him. And he has a good sense of where the cutback lane is and just enough speed to get to it. I feel like he's about a 4.54.
He does everything pretty well.
Right. He does everything pretty well.
Nothing spectacular, like you said.
Ward. He was, remember the Earth, Wind, and Fire backfield? He's the Ward, right, of the Earth, Wind, and Fire backfield, the old with the Giants. He's the Ward of that three. He's the medium-sized back. He's not the scat back. He's not the power back. He's the medium back. Schlesinger, fantastic pick. Golf clap for the person who got Schlesinger there. Denzel Burke is another guy that was projected way earlier coming into the season. Some people's preseason 2 or 1 in some cases, or no lower than 3 corner for most people coming into the season. A combination of, frankly, not always awesome tape. And I think he has a couple of nagging injuries. I think his memory sort of pushed him down a little bit.
The rare instance where coming back to school hurt him.
Yes.
The first Oregon game is literally like at the end of the day, that's what hurt him the most. He got burnt, and then the whole defense changed though.
Yeah. He seemed to not be able to adjust to. I mean, he's a good athlete, but he seemed not to realize the other guys are good athletes. Like, he didn't seem to respect at all the athletic ability of Oregon's wide receivers, and they're good athletes. And he bit on some things. His eyes, he took the cheese, they say. His eyes took him to some bad situations. And though he's a good athlete, he's not an elite athlete. He wasn't able to get back into the play once he got burned. So this could end up being, once again, the Eagles. He could end up being fantastic because it's the Eagles. And
he'll be starting outside corner for 10 years and help them win a Super Bowl.
All right.
It's the Eagles.
The situation, if this happens in real life, the situation will probably turn out where, like you said, like
perfect situation.
Because he doesn't even have to play for a year, and he's just going to basically watch really good corners play at a high level. And
Darius Slay. I'm going to learn from Darius Slay for a season,
right, and then replace him, right, and then up being really good. And then we have, once again, this guy's one of my favorites, and this is a really good spot for him, right, because he's paired with Aaron Jones, who is another sort of do everything back. And though there's not a huge differential in size, he's a more powerful guy. His contact balance is redonkulous.
Elite. It's elite.
It's ridiculous. I mean, you could hit this guy in the base of the spine with a truck transaxle, and he would stumble but keep going. You just don't see people be able to keep getting yards the way he does. He was behind a so-so offensive line and just outproduced almost every run situation he was ever in. He got yards that just shouldn't have been there. Consistently, he got yards that shouldn't have been there. His contact balance, insane. He's got really good hands, and he picks up blitzes fairly well.
It's kind of special to have two running backs in this class with insane contact balance. The way Ashton Jeanty, who is in my top 5 of all prospects, and then Cam Skattebo.
Yep.
Like, it's just insane. They're both so good at it. And but one of them's a better athlete. And Jeanty, I want to say he's still a better pass catcher than Skattebo, but I don't want to knock Skattebo on he's very good at it too.
I have to think about that. I'm going to think about it.
Well, if you look at Jeanty's tape from last year, he was an elite pass catcher.
And then not so much this year, right? Yeah.
Well, they just didn't throw to him for
right. I mean, that's not his fault. You're right. That's not his fault. I wonder why they stopped throwing him the ball, because he's good. I mean, once he gets the ball in space, that's trouble. But remind me to blow in a call to Boise's OC and see if I can find out what the heck why they weren't doing that. But Cam showed you that he can catch the ball, not just those traditional running back routes, but he ran posts and go routes, and
I
he
agree.
had a couple of double moves.
That's why I said I don't want to knock him to say Ashton is very good at it.
They both are. They're both good receivers, but Jeanty hasn't run the same route tree that Cam has, and he's been doing it for a while. Go back to his tape at Sacramento State. They kind of funneled their pass game through Cam at Sacramento State, so he's caught the ball a lot and in a lot of different parts of the field. Obviously in the flats and stuff like that, but he's caught the ball intermediate and deep. So he's a 3-level receiver, which you don't get from a lot of running backs.
Billy Bowman, Oklahoma safety. He's an undersized guy.
Yep.
I mean, here in the 3rd round, I don't know. There's a lot to like. He's got good ball skills.
Yep.
This is a round early for me.
He's an elite level special teamer who will eventually be on the field in certain situations. Does he ever become a full-time starter? Possibly not. I don't know if he ever becomes a full-time starter. I can see him being a dime kind of guy who comes in certain situations and is a terrific special teamer. But that guy is also available probably in the top of the 5th round.
I agree. Like, it's just a little early to me, but I like the player. I like the guy.
I like the player. I like the guy. I think he has super high, once again, levels of effort. He's going to play his little heart out. But I wonder if he ever.
But it also is a little heart.
It is a little heart.
He's kind of a tiny guy.
I have to wonder, will he ever be a full-time starter? I mean, his comp is guys like Mark Kelso, right? And though those guys exist, you don't want to bet on that. You know what I mean? Like, that's not.
Kelso started on Super Bowl teams.
Yes.
Watch the Mark Kelso slander. I'm just saying.
It's not slander. I watched unlike most people, I watched Mark Kelso's entire collegiate career. Once again, William and Mary, right? My mother was in law school when he was playing there. I remember Mark Kelso intensely. I have strong memories of him as a collegian. And of course, he was a stud in William and Mary. He returned punts and kickoffs. He was a all everything player at William and Mary. Now, obviously, at the next level, he's not quite that, but he's a good football player. And he'll play in the league for 6-7 years. I don't know if he'll ever be a starter. That's all I'm saying.
And then LeQuint Allen from Syracuse, running back, do-it-all running back.
Yep.
I think it's a little early for me.
Yep. He's a specialist. Yeah.
Yep. And then the last pick will be Luke Kandra to the Rams. But as soon as I click Luke Kandra, the whole screen disappears. So I was making sure that you guys got through your list. So before we do Luke Kandra, there's a lot of people watching. And
yes.
I want to say to Dale, to Bill, to everybody in the chat, thank you. There's a lot of you. Hit that subscribe, hit that like. Make sure you give at 11 Bravo, which is Bill, a follow. Give Dale at Bengals and Brews a follow. And at NFL Draft Fanatic, no Iron Fanatic, a follow. But we could not do this event without all of you. So Dale, Bill, and I are having the time of our lives here on camera.
Yep.
But I do want to give a shout out. Anthony Russo, I know that you're tweeting everything out. Thank you. I believe Greg Rector from MBS Media, you were tweeting everything out as well. So we couldn't do this without all of you. Every single one of you that made this happen makes me feel really good that we can do this every Friday. So, Bill, make sure you can give yourself a plug for MBS Media and let everybody know what you do and how to find you.
So every Wednesday at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 7 Mountain, 6 Pacific, and 3 p.m. Hawaii time, you can catch MBS Draft Central on YouTube, and I think it's live streamed to Instagram and X and wherever else. And once again, please like and subscribe Team MBS Media on YouTube. I'm doing 32 mocks in 32 days. I just did earlier today the Tennessee Titans mock, which I will be publishing and writing about and talking about why I did. Now, I'll do more than one version because one of them I did like maximum trade value, right? Where I had them trading down and loading up a bunch of extra picks. And then I'm going to do a more realistic one as well. So you can see the two different where they, stick and stay. But I wanted to see sort of what happens if they decided to completely change their roster by getting a gazillion, picks by trading down. But you can also check out my articles. I just interviewed Ted Wynn of the Just Win Baby podcast, and also who writes for The Athletic, who's a tremendous analyst and brain about offensive football and talking about how you attack the Vic Fangio defense. So that's going to come up in the next few days on Team MBS Media's website. And yes, Dale, I'm going to have to make sure I follow you as well, Binglebent Brews. Okay, I'll check out your podcast and your draft guide. And I have worked on draft guides in the past. My old friend and co-host, Jeff, I worked on his draft guide back when he had his draft guide as well. And yes, hopefully one of you could send me the results as well of this, because I'll write about it. I've been doing a lot of mock drafts and writing about a lot of mock drafts, and I'm trying to get a sense of, as you said, use the term board check. My term I like to use is draft personality. I want to see sort of what people's draft personalities are. And some people, have a good sense of what their team likes and dislikes. I know the Steelers do certain things and sometimes things that drive me crazy in terms of how they draft, but I know their draft personality pretty well. The Colts have an extremely easy to analyze draft personality. I picked the Colts picks probably amongst the highest rate of being correct. I think I got one year. They had extra picks that year, but I think I got 7 out of their 9 picks one year. So I have a pretty good sense of what the Colts like. But you can see me there, and then Zinni 62 Media. I'll be doing interviews with prospects. I'll be doing my analysis of prospects, some scouting reports on Zinni 62 Media, and then I'll be providing live coverage of the NFL Combine starting next week, right? Yeah, good Lord. It's coming fast. God, this month went by. But you'll be seeing the coverage I'll be providing of the NFL Combine as well.
And Dale, give yourself
Bengals and Brews. Find me, don't find me. I don't really care. That's it.
Well,
I love talking draft, man. You guys are awesome. I love talking draft. It's fun. That's it.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Sorry, Luke. Luke Kanda. Tough guy, right? Your classic brawler. All those, what is the term? Knife fighter. All those little terms you would love to say when a guy's got some, a little bit of chutzpah. not the most athletic, not the most impressive, not the biggest, strongest, fastest, but he wants to get his hands on you, get his paws on you, and move you places that you don't want to go. Louisville guy who transferred, I guess, laterally, basically. Some transfers like CY, like that. I don't know. Maybe it was a scheme thing. I don't know. I don't know what made him transfer.
He's from Cincinnati, Bill.
That's right. He's a Cincinnati kid. You're right. I did know that. I did know he's a Cincinnati kid. He just decided to go home, I guess. Cincinnati's offense didn't always highlight the things he's best at. They're not exactly like a downhill power running game, so it didn't highlight him the way he might have been in a different system. But he's a good player. Probably about where he goes. He might go a little later. Testing will help him. If he tests super well, I could see him even going around here or slightly earlier. If he tests poorly, he probably goes a little later. But he looks like a sort of, shorter armed player. Once again, I haven't seen measurements, so maybe I'm wrong. But he looks like he plays like a guy with shorter arms who sort of has to get to you a little bit, which is why he sometimes, once again, he overextends, gets a little aggressive. But he is a guy who can help a team that wants to run the ball. And
I see that Ravens mock and it pissed me off again. Just saying.
It does feel
I'm just saying.
But Dale, it feels
back to the Ravens.
I know, but it feels Raven-esque, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like a Raven-esque draft? It feels very Raven-esque to me.
Jim, if you could go back to the Ravens real quick.
So Dale can get upset all over again. Dale apparently wants to
I got
upset himself
PTSD because I seen that Ravens draft. I seen it in full form, and I was like, "You got to be shitting me!" Look at that.
It does really feel like a Ravens draft.
Tyler Booker, Benjamin Morrison,
Norman Lott.
It's
a very Ravens draft.
It's what I would want.
So if the Ravens drafter is here, put yourself in the chat and we'll give you a shout out. They like the Ravens draft. So.
But not just do I like it because it's good players. It fits their draft personality.
It's like, this is a value, and value to me.
Yep. 100%.
So it was Yuri. So Yuri hasn't drafted with us. He was referred to us by a young lady named Jen who had done the Ravens the first 3 times we did this. Mm-hmm. And she didn't want to hog it, so she sent him. Okay. And I know Yuri actually Yuri had a date, and he was telling me ahead of time, my date has to know how important it is for me to do this draft.
Priorities.
So Yuri, if you are still listening, you're getting some props on your draft. So thanks, guys.
And hopefully your date will respect how well you've drafted and reward you for that as well.
Yeah, give him a little something.
So the early buzz is that this draft kicked butt.
Oh yeah, no, I see that one too.
Right, the Falcons only got 2, but my God, did that help them? My God, did that help them? If they literally come away with just those 2 picks, they'll be celebrating in Peachtree. Like they'll be bottles popped. That's boy, as a defensive coordinator, you can get a little excited about getting Mike Green and John Campbell into your program. That's trouble.
Jim, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You guys put in like 3 hours.
Awesome.
My hat's off to you. The only thing I was doing was clicking the mouse. You guys had to talk.
Hey, I was just tossing it to Bill most of the time because this guy, the encyclopedia right here.
And I've done Draftapalooza with Bill. A lot of what you see happening on this podcast, I learned from Bill because I've done Draftapalooza. I said, okay, what can we do to repeat this? And obviously, Draftapalooza is 7 rounds. This is 3.
Right, but this is a good
liberties. But
it's a warm up. Yeah,
good warm up.
And anybody in the
7 rounds is crazy.
Yeah, I do want to make a
couple join us. Come on, Dale. You seem a little crazy too. I'd love to invite you.
I'm pretty crazy.
So. Anybody in the chat, if you want to be in the seat that Dale and Bill are, send me a message on X, please.
There you go.
Because we do these every weekend. And in addition, Dale, do you want to plug what you're doing March 15th in Cincy for anybody that's in Cincinnati?
We're going to do a live show at Midwest Best Barbecue. There's somebody who sponsors our show. They're great people. Shout out Tim and Nicole and the rest of the family there at Midwest. We're just going to do a live show and have some fun. It's the week of free agency, so we hope we have something decent to talk about with the first week of free agency. So should be a good time.
Yep. And I will be there and my kids will be with me. So
there we go.
You will see me in the audience. So
let's go.
And for all the people, there was also another organization that was helping. So Stadium Rant.
Oh, Stadium Rant.
Thank you.
Hi, Stadium Rant guys, who I met at in Mobile.
Yeah. And Stadium Rant will be on center stage March 7th. So March 7th, it will be Stadium Rant and Draft Professors on the stage. And whoever we get to draft will be the drafters.
Awesome.
So just again, though, you guys put in a lot of work. And the amount of tape that you guys have to watch to be able to talk to the level of detail that you did on this podcast. Just like I'd give you a round of applause, but I don't think we do that on podcasts. So I'm impressed. So, but for the 40 podcasters at the Draft Professor, we bring on guests like Dale, we bring on guests like Bill. We can't do this without all of you. So thank you, everybody that made this a huge hit. There are a lot of people watching. Yes. So thank you, everybody. And we will see you on a podcast again tomorrow morning. Brian and Anthony are mocking this mock. That's the podcast at 10 a.m.
The grind never stops when you love the draft.
Yes.
Yep. So thank you guys.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jim.
But Dale, I'm gonna add you, and then I'm gonna hit you up in your DMs when you get a chance. Send me your contact information.
Sounds good, man. It was Bill. You killed this, man. You killed it.
Oh, you're doing pretty well yourself, youngster. So yes, I look forward to our next conversations, and this has been great.
I am glad that I could put the two of you together because I didn't know that you hadn't met prior to me sending each of you the invite.
It won't be our last time, I promise you that.
No, we're gonna do some stuff.
We're gonna do some stuff.
All right, man. Thanks for having me, guys. See you.
Have a great evening, everybody, and happy drafting.
Happy drafting.